Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? Let's go. As always, we will wait a little bit to for everybody to come. Let's see. How many are we here? 177. So let's wait a little bit more. Let's see if we can get to 200. And then probably you had yesterday, it was foliage. Like landscape and foliage.
Landscape and foliage.
So landscape and foliage, procedural tools, and tomorrow we'll have a dynamic atmosphere with clouds and fog and your atmosphere and everything. So this week it's about the world. Okay. So week one was about building your story, your short film. Week two is about more about sequencer, getting all the timings correctly, about control rig, setting your pose, adding your animations, all these kind of things. And the third week is about the world, and the fourth week it's about rendering, lifelink face. Hopefully, we see also MetaHuman Animator. Let's see if we have time and yeah, and like finishing, polishing all your details and last details. So yeah, that's a little bit it. Okay. Loving the bootcamp. What can we expect as to keep learning UE5 to be the master of the universe? Yeah, that's it, David. Exactly. So let me bring it here. So I mean, this class, let's start. As I was mentioning, we're reaching the 200 people, one more, and we'll have the 200. So this class actually, many people ask us like, I mean, it's animation. This is like a little bit the opposite, but I feel that as I've been mentioning, I know this is a big bootcamp animation, but the point is that it would be really hard for us to ask you for a full individual project without an environment. And it's always good that you actually understand a little bit of everything of Unreal Engine. I mean, when I say everything, I don't mean Niagara or C++ or really like advanced things. But I think that it's great that you know a little bit about everything. And honestly, I mean, um, in my opinion, one of the best things that Unreal Engine has, not the better, or sorry, not the best, because we know that we have like so many cool things in Unreal. Um, but one of the best things is blueprints. Okay, so knowing a little bit about programming language or actually like how to program things, a little bit of the logic, and knowing what a variable is, knowing how can you start working with blueprints, and actually for procedural tools, I think it's really great. So this class actually it's based on one of the fellowship, and it's called in a similar way. And all we're going to use some blueprints that come from the Pixel Mega Scans, okay, and actually from this plugin that I was mentioning. Probably we have it here like meshes, collisions. It's not here, but actually there it is from here. Okay, so we're going to be downloading this, and we have some blueprints from here. Although we will learn how to do similar things with the new procedural content generation. And I want to let you know a little bit how, I mean, all this under the hood blueprint from these blueprint actors or blueprint tools that we're going to use, how they're built. Okay, so how can we modify a few things? Why can we input something and why can't we input some other things? So for those who are really like artists and don't want to know anything about logic, or about blueprints, Maybe this is not like the best class, but I think that for general purposes and general knowledge, this is really, really amazing. And I mean, we can say that someone that programs in blueprints can be a programmer. Doesn't matter that you don't know how to code with C++ or that you're like I don't know, like engineer or something. But actually being able to develop like simple things, it's really, really worth it. So this is why we added this class, okay? And then the geometry scripting is, I mean, we just want to bring new features here. And actually geometry scripting is just like it started like 1 year ago or 1 year and a half ago, something like that. And it's really cool. So we thought it was the worth to mention. So let's see. So we have here a little bit. This is a slight modification that I've done. So basically, we will start with a little bit of overview of blueprints. What are they? Then we will work with these construction tools, and we'll see afterward. Like let's know more about blueprints. So we'll get a little bit more in depth. We'll talk about what is an object, what's an actor, for example, how blueprints are. I mean, what is the flow? What are variables? What kind of variables we have, or types of variables, and so on. And finally, we will see a geometry scripting example. And as I was saying, as an extra, I always like to bring some little extras, and this one is the procedural content generation. So it's not going to be all about it. It's actually, if we have time, I want you to know, like I like to get all the knowledge, the basic knowledge at the very beginning, and hopefully we have time to see like some little examples from the construction tools. But instead of doing them in blueprints, we will do them in this PCG, that's procedural content generation. Okay. So 212, that's great. So I see you all there, and let's go. So blueprints usage, a little bit of theory. Yeah, I see that you're already enjoying to see a little bit of the chaos that you can prepare with blueprints. So what are blueprints? So blueprints are used to drive level-based events to control internally scripted behavior for in-game actors and even to control complex animations for game and characters. So every single action that we want, it's not only for level-based, it's for construction, it's for behavior. It's like anything that it's not just like a 3D, okay? It's driven by or C++, or it can be most of the things can be created right now with blueprints. Actually, you need to know that we'll see it afterwards, but when you're coding, you can decide what can you get access from blueprints and what not. Like it's like blueprint callable, or like some things for the coders that you can add, and then you can expose it directly to blueprints. Okay. And as you can see here, this is a little bit of basically nodes connecting inputs, outputs, and then this execution line. So we'll talk about flows afterwards. So blueprints are visual scripts that are used to add new functionality to your game. So anything new, and also not only for the game, remember, it can also be in editor, okay? You can now have some widget editor utilities that you can create your own tools internally. So it's really cool. We can see an example afterwards. So basically, you connect nodes, events, functions, variables, etc. We will see afterwards a little bit what it's an event. What color do they have? Spoiler alert. So this is like red are events, and then the different type of variables that each of them has basically a different color, etc. Okay, so when we talk about blueprints, it's not only like, okay, here it is a blueprint, that's it, there's only one type of blueprint. No, that's totally that's not right. Okay. So basically we have many different types. We can call and we can create them from the blueprint class icon. Okay. But basically when you click it, you can access all classes. We will see it afterwards. These are the most common types. But basically you can create like so many. We have level blueprints. This one, it's not actually created. It's created by default and it's from a map. Okay, every time you have a level, it will have a level blueprint added to it, as well as, for example, you have, I don't know if it's here, it's not here, but you have from a sequence, you have the director's blueprint. Okay, so it's like the level sequence, sorry, the level blueprint, but for a sequence, so you can trigger. Actually, the other day, they were asking that to me in my mentor class, and I showed a little bit. We can actually see how to trigger a blueprint from a sequence. So actually, that's a possibility. Um, you have, as I was saying, blueprint class that is here, data only blueprint. So basically, when you create one blueprint and it has nothing inside, but only it's the parameters that are going to be modified, you will see them a little bit different because basically they want openness always because they have nothing but a difference in the parameters of the variables. Blueprint interface that here we enter a little bit in communication. There are a few ways for those who know a little bit more. You can cast, you can generate dispatchers or interface. So basically, you create a one blueprint. You can really access easily to new functions and events inside the same blueprint. But when you need to communicate from one blueprint to the other or from the level blueprint to another blueprint, you need to generate this kind of blueprint communication flows. Okay, macros. Probably you've heard the word macros in coding language or coding meaning in some way. So basically, macros are just to create like a library as well as you can create it for functions. And then you have the animation blueprints that you've seen a little bit. So it's basically when you have a character and you want to drive the behavior and the animation of that character through blueprints. Okay. So this is a little bit, basically we tell Unreal how things should be working. So we generate behaviors in a way. So for example, level blueprints and blueprint classes are the two most common types you will use. Indeed, that's right. So level blueprints, so basically provides a control mechanism for level streaming and binding events so actors place in the level. So this is, when, for example, we've gone to the level tab and we have, for example, the persistent level, and then you remember that we always say, oh, if you start rendering and then everything is flagged, it's because when you go to the levels tab, you have like small dots on the left side. Basically it's because the streaming method that we mentioned, it's blueprint. So here you can always go and coordinate and manage when they are going to be streamed or not with the blueprints. Okay, and this is when we tell you, okay, just for the sake of simplicity, basically select all of them and then change the streaming method to always load it. And then from the sequence, you control the level visibility and so on. So actually, you can control the level visibility from the sequence as well as from the level blueprint. Okay. And if you want to generate references, for example, for assets, if you go to the level blueprint and you select things from the level and you right click, you will be able to see that you can bring directly those references. For example, here we see camera. So cameras, for example, and pounds, and these are the common things that you bring directly from there. Because a camera, I mean, it's usually, or it's inside the blueprint, or usually it's not like and you don't get it from some other blueprints. But in case you want it, just like I'm not going to be watching this, but like or we won't see this in this class. But in case you actually want to do that, there is like a node that is called like search for all actors of class. So you can actually say I want to look for all the cameras in the level. So there's a node for that. Okay. So when we enter here, we can see it there, like how is the interface? So basically the interface, the editor, the blueprint editor, and we all know the text menu here, it's like the same or mostly the same on every, like not only in the editor, in the sub editor too. Then we have the toolbar and we can see some nice things. Compile. So this is a little bit like on the materials sub editor, you have apply. So this is a little bit like that. When you hit apply in the materials, like all the shaders start compiling and like everything gets processed. So here we do the same. We need to compile for Unreal Engine to just understand that. And this is like final version of like the latest version of the blueprint. We have save, we have browse, that it's like basically to go to the content browser, find. One of the things that we will see is that by default, the find button, or if we hit like F, basically we will go and search inside our blueprint, but there's also a way to search on every single blueprint of Unreal Engine, class settings and class defaults that we will talk about them. And basically it's like general settings of the blueprint. And then we already know this, that it's simulation and play, that it basically is the same as calling it in the main editor, but you can actually call simulation or play mode directly from the blueprint. Okay. Then we have the components panel. So for those who know a little bit how to program in C++, you know that you have the .h and .cpp. So you have the definition and the development or the construction of those definitions. So basically here, this would be 3 and 4 would be the .h. So the definition here is like when we tell, so I'm going to build this function, I'm going to set up this variable, I'm going to have this macro. This is how my class it's going to be. And then all the development, all the construction of the definitions and the setup and this the settings of the variables, etc., they're going to be developed here on the graph. Okay, we will talk about what the difference is between events and constructions. But basically you can see that all the construction, all the development of the definitions of the functions basically are done in these graphs. Okay. Then we go to, well, we have my blueprints panel that, as we were saying, like basically we put here the definition. So this is the function that is going to be called, and this is the variable, etc., etc. The graph that is here of the viewport, and finally the details panel. So here you can set up the type. So we can, for example, say if this is per instance, or it's like private or not, or it's going to be, it cannot be set in child, etc. Okay, so this is a little change I've done. So I've put this right now because I know this can be a little here we say dense, no, in a way. If it's the first time you talk about programming logic or these kind of things, it will be a little bit intense. So what we're going to do is we're going to start working with these blueprints. Okay, so we have I mean Quixel, when they were acquired, or they joined the Epic community or ecosystem better, basically they started developing these kind of elements, these kind of packages where they put some 3D assets that were like collections inside an example inside the marketplace. Okay, so we have these three: dry grass collections, query collections, and lava field collections. If I'm not wrong, I think you have the same blueprints in all of them, but I always use the query collections. So I'm going to recommend you to download this one. Actually, I'll be downloading it myself, so it should be this one. So I can click here. So I'm on Alva's user. So thank you, Alva, for for that. And I'm going to add it to the project. I mentioned I actually we went through this on my mentor class the other day. We're working on 5.1, sorry, 5.2, and for example, couldn't be copied to the project. Well, we're going to see one of the things. 5.1 is the latest, so if we add it, it's not there. Let's see if we can add it. If not, I think it should be on the Epic bootcamp project. Okay, so we click so all projects, and I should have 5.2. So this is the same. Let's see, 1 second. Unreal projects. Actually, real projects, Epic bootcamp. I don't know in which one am I actually. So I'm going to double check 1 second. So I should be here. Just let me check one. second. So I'll call this here. So in Explorer. So actually not, I'm not even there. So I should be on some other one. Epic Bootcamp. This is 5.2, probably I'm in this one. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that it mentions is that 5.2 it's not compatible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 5.1 and I'm going to add it to the project, okay? And it says files from query collection already exist in the project. Do you want to replace them? So now I'm a little bit afraid because maybe if I replace something, maybe it's already broken. But let me just check 1 second because I should have this there. Let me check static meshes. I'm going to click here. I should see this. So it's from Megascans. I should see also the query things. Let's see if I can find the others. If they load, Niche, Ross. They tell me it's telling me that it's here in the mega scans. So let's see, Asian temple, Japanese. I think I still have a few things missing. So let's jump. Let's be brave and let's see to replace them. So I'm adding it to the project, okay? So verifying. So there we go. So yeah, so here are the all the query things, etc., etc. Okay, so here is everything. And one of the things I should see, it's something that I already set up over here. So all these blueprints, in case you didn't download the query tools, the query mega scans, the query collections, basically we already have the blueprints that we're going to use in the project, okay? So don't worry about that. It's just that I'm going to double check that we have, for example, this. So now they are duplicated. As you can see, one is in the procedural tools class and the other one is on the game blueprints. So basically it would be here. So you can see it. Okay. So basically this is what what we have, but we already have it here because we prepared it for you. So I just wanted to do it again, and I knew that there are some elements that we didn't have. So but they are not 100% necessary. Okay. It's just that I'm going through the whole deck thing. So as I was mentioning, we have here the Quixel random scatter, the Quixel spline scatter, and the Quixel spline walleye. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the level that we have, and I'm going to be explaining exactly these elements with our project. If we are good in time, basically I'll start doing a new a level from scratch because I think it's actually pretty cool. And then we'll continue with it. Okay, but I want this to be really practical. And although I usually talk too much, I'll try to make it even more practical here. Okay, so if you go to the deck, basically it's like an example of all the ones that we have. So I'm not going to explain it here. I'm just going to do all this exercise, and I'm going to skip talking about those with the deck, and I will explain them directly on the project. So as I was mentioning, let's go to the folder procedural tools. Let's go to maps, and I'm going to go to the level that is called Epic Bootcamp 08 done. So let's see if it opens. Take a little bit of time. There you go. Okay, so we have our project here. Don't mind about these messages there. And what we're going to see today is basically this is the geometry scripting. So you'll see the levels we have here. Procedural tools are all these things that are here. Okay, a few scatters, a spline scattering, and a spline wall align. And then we have the geoscripting that it's this thing here. Okay, maybe it's because I have it. Well, maybe it's not there, but basically it's, oh, this was a mesh that I had. Okay. And then I have the geoscripting that basically is this. Okay. But yeah, I had it like I baked it into a static mesh. So we're going to try to replicate this. And you can see here that basically we have this kind of elements, but they are not placed one by one. And this is a little bit like the gold of this and the magic of this. Basically, we're going to generate a spline line that or spline curve that is going to be our like our guide or our path. And then all of this is going to be generated automatically procedurally. And this is why it's called like that, the class. So same thing for a scatter. And then same thing for the wall align. Okay. So you see here this, and from one of the meshes, we're going to be generating all of this. So let's start. So when we come here, as I was saying, we have the blueprints class. So the blueprints folder. And if we go here, we have these three. So I know we have these extra two elements, two assets. They need to be there. I mean, not in this folder. They need to be in the project. We're not going to see them. I just want you to know that basically this is like extra thing. So basically it's like no transform. This is just something that we need. And you will see that these parameters, so they are needed. This is an enum. It's basically a structure of data. And this is the same thing. Okay, so it's not needed. This is a little bit more advanced. It's just something that we need to generate in order to work with this. We'll see this afterwards. So right now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to try to replicate this. So for that, let's see if I find it. We have the Quixel random scatter, we have the spline scatter, and we have the spline wall align. So definitely is going to be the Quixel random scatter. So we're going to place it here. Let me check. I'm going to just I'm going to double click on the procedural tools. I'm going to put it here. Okay. Yes, in order to be, for the sake of the organization, I'm going to put it there. So now you see that I have like a splash here, basically this billboard, just to know where my elements are. I can put it up a little bit. And here, if I click it, I'll be able to see, you see that it gets this name. I can call it however I want. And when I come down, I have the standard transform. But basically, of course, the editor visual scale that I'll be able to modify. But this is not the most important. The most important thing is this, okay? These elements, like, so it's like meshes to spawn. So this is what we want. So as we click this one here, we will be able to see that we have four types of meshes, okay? So I'm going to come here and you'll see that as 3D assets, I have a few rocks. So my goal here will be to bring these four meshes also in this one, just for you to know. So for that, I click and I generate as many elements, as many array elements as meshes, different meshes I want. So in this case, I've selected this one and I apply it here. It's pretty easy. I'm going to click the other one just to go and select this one here. I'm going to put it here. Again, I'm going to click this one there just to get the same asset. I click this one here and I put it there. And now I'm going to click this one finally, and I'm going to select again. I'll click it here and I'll put it there. So right now I have my four assets. So for now, is anybody lost?
No.
Do I need to repeat anything?
Some
Okay.
people is still opening the map.
the levels. Okay, so this is, as you can see, I'm just like redoing everything that it's already here. I'm just trying to explain it in the meantime, okay? In the, like while I do it. So one of the things right now we've decided we've mentioned to the blueprint, okay, I want to work with these four meshes. I want you to like to spawn these four meshes around the level. But this one has an origin, okay? And here, one of the things that I have is radius control, but at the same time, I have number of meshes. So in case I make this bigger, remember Unreal units are always centimeters unless you modify that. But basically Unreal units is one Unreal unit is 1 centimeter. So this would be 6 meters, okay? So this doesn't mean that we have this in 6 meters distance. Basically is that we're drawing a 6 meters radius um, area and surface in a way. And then this is spawning the rock inside this 6 meter radius circle, okay? But let's see, and let's put 10. But at the same time, I don't want one, I want more. So let's say 25. And immediately I get 25 elements. So it's like, okay, it's nice, but it's not what I was expecting. I'll just put it here. It's not exactly what I was expecting. Let's see if I can find an empty space. Because I was willing, of course, it's a little bit up because I need to put it a little bit down. But because I wanted some more around here, and so no problem. There's one thing, let's see if I can find it, that it's called the seed. So here, in a way, randomness, it's never exactly random. So the point is that in order to create randomness, we need a seed. Okay, every time that you work with like that with randomness in programming, you need a seed that it's a number that basically it will be your randomness, and then there has like an algorithm that just generates whatever procedure or whatever logic you want. Okay, but if you come here and you say that instead of 7, you put 5, this is going to change. And remember, I wanted something here, so it's going to be perfect. And this is why I mentioned that like randomness is never really random. It's like right now, if I go back to the same seed, it will be exactly the same. So this is good and this is bad. Basically, the bad thing is that random is not so pure. Randomness is not so pure as we thought. But at the same time, it is great because if we remember the seed that we were using, we will always be able to go back to that version. Okay. So imagine that you know that 23,655 is really good for you, but you're like checking that maybe you want some other options. You go to 0 here and you get some others. But if finally you don't find one that you like, but 5 it was great for you, you can always be back. Okay. So this is a little bit how it works. And now one of the things that we can do, because you can see here that this is still a blueprint. One of the things that we can do basically is to bake it to the level, and we will convert this into static meshes in the outliner. Okay. But for that, there is one thing before that we need to know. It's like post-baking behavior. So what is going to happen with this blueprint? So do nothing. This means that we will bake it. You remember that I had here the asset, and then I also had the blueprint with the geometry scripting. So basically, this would be do nothing. So I maintain the blueprint while I have the mesh. The other one is hide sourced. So basically, I won't see it, but it will be there, but it will be hidden. And the other one is directly deleted. So I'm going to just say bake to level. And suddenly you will see that all these meshes have been there. And if I click them, I will be able to see this. Okay. So if I come here and I just hide it, I will hide this blueprint, but at the same time, I will have those all these assets. And maybe it's like, why should I do this? So, I mean, just because maybe I want to delete this one, or maybe I want to just move this one over there. So if I just go back here, my version will be the original one. And then you can see how this, I'll just put myself here a little bit. You can see how this one just gets removed. But at the same time, I have this one that it's only, that is actually this one here that I moved it there. So I can be working with this, and making the static measures sometimes is actually good. Okay. So for example, for optimization, I always say that we won't have a class of optimization, but we are going to give some tips. So this is one of the tips. So many times you can actually for like minimizing draw calls, you can actually come here and merge it afterwards. Okay, so you can come here, or you can go to tools, merge actors, and then you will be able to get all of this and generate one only asset. Okay, so for example, this is one of the things you can do, etc. Okay, so we've seen the random scattering through our radius. So let's click it again. Let's do a quick overview again. So so we have the post baking behavior. We can bake it, and we have the random stream, and with the initial seed, we have all these meshes that this is kind of limitless. So you can add as many as you want, the number of measures you can apply, you want to apply, the radius to control it. We can generate some rotation as well as some minimum and maximum scale. So we will be talking about this today quite a lot. So basically, as we want to generate some randomness and we don't want it to be exactly the same, basically we will say that all these assets have a scale with it. Okay, so basically this scale is going to be modified per instance. So as you can see here, we modify the randomness of the rotation, and then the same thing for the scale. And this is done because of this. So we have the rotation, and then we have the scale. Okay. Finally, and this is just for you to know, it's not really important. You could see the node transform and node mesh. Basically, this is saving a temporal version of all these assets, and this is required in order to bake them afterwards. Okay. So let's continue and let's see the next blueprint or procedural tool. Let's come here. Let's go to blueprints, procedural tool, and then we've seen the random scatter. Now we're going to see the spline scatter. So the spline scatter, let's come here. What we're going to need here is to see the spline, okay? So we see it here. We don't want it to go that way. We want it to go this way. So we're going to rotate it there, okay? And as we've already seen, for the splines, in order to modify them, you will need to click the spline. But here, what you're actually clicking is the blueprint, not the spline. So you have two options to modify the spline, or clicking the component here, or just clicking back one of the nodes. So I've clicked one of the nodes, and although I don't see that I have clicked the spline, I'm actually modifying the spline. Can you see it here? So I can move it. I'm going to just exaggerate a little bit this as I've done here, because although like a line, it would be nice, but I want you to see that this can be totally curved, okay? So I'm going to duplicate a node, okay? And duplicating a node, it's clicking Alt key, pressing Alt key, and then I modify it here. So, but I'm not releasing the Alt key there, okay? Oops, sorry, I just clicked the wrong plane. So I'm going to put it here, as you can see, now it's correct. And I'm going to do the same thing. So, you know, splines are driven by tangents, okay? So basically I have a node, I have its tangent, and then this tangent is the one that is going to be generating the curve. and it's always going to be like that. Okay. So one of the things that it's interesting is that, but this is more about splines, is that if I actually want, you can see that my cursor is different. Here is a crosshair, and now here it's like a pan icon. So when I have the pan icon, that means that I'm hovering over the spline. I can right click, and here we have add spline point here. So I can add it, and then I can get a new point. Okay. So I will be able to modify the tangent there, etc. Okay. So I'm moving here the tangent. So I'll go to the node and I'll make it, I modify it a little bit. So I have my spline, but I still don't have anything placed, anything scattered. So right now I'm clicking the blueprint again, and let me just click it like here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up and I'm going to see very similar things. So bake to level, post baking behavior, we already know what this is. So I'm going to come here, random street, we'll have the seed, and then we have here select meshes. So I'm going to select one of the meshes. Probably let's click this one to see how many do we have. I only have one. So I'm going to click this one here. You should already have this asset, okay? So no problem at all. And I'm going to put it inside here. So right now, you can see one behavior that it's all of them have this little stain there, like all of them are exactly positioned the same way. And this is not like really nice, okay? So can you see here, we can see this randomness there. And this is because when we click this, we're going to be able to modify the spacing. You can see there the random rotation. You can see that they are rotating, but not of all of them are rotating the same way. You can see this one here rotating less, and some others rotating way more. And of course, the random scale. So some grow, some won't. So this is what it gives us random rotation. So if we want everything, 360 would be like full rotation, and random scale will be like what is the max value that we can have. Additionally, we can like modify a few transforms if we just want to modify this, etc., etc. Okay. If we even want to give more randomness. Finally, here at the end, something that you cannot do with this one, with the scatter, is that modifying the plane. So basically all of it will be with the plane. We can modify a little bit, but it's not adapting to the landscape. It's actually what I want to say. We could modify the location randomness and the Z, but basically what we always will want to happen is that this gets modified with the height of the landscape. And this is not and these tools right now, the ones that Quixel generated, are not capable of doing this. But we will see with the PCG, with the procedural content generation tools, how we can do that. Okay, so there are a few things that are a little bit not worse, it's just that it's newer, so we need to learn it. But at the same time, finally, here at the end, something that you cannot do with this one, with the scatter, is that modifying the plane. So basically all of it will be with the plane. We can modify a little bit, but it's not adapting to the landscape. It's actually what I want to say. We could modify the location randomness and the Z, but basically what we always will want to happen is that this gets modified with the height of the landscape. And this is not and these tools right now, the ones that Quixel generated, are not capable of doing this. But we will see with the PCG, with the procedural content generation tools, how we can do that. Okay, so there are a few things that are a little bit not worse, it's just that it's newer, so we need to learn it. But at the same time, it has more options. Okay, so yeah, so but what we can actually do here is that we can put it there. And as this is coming back, coming down a little bit, you can see that actually we can modify these nodes and we can control the height of each of the nodes. And this is one of the good things that we have here with the spline, that we can actually control these elements per node, okay? So this is one of the cool things. Actually, we could just like modify this so much. That we could kind of generate like a little bit of the scatter that we have here, but instead of like a radius, we could just generate this kind of spline, okay? Looks a little bit like a cemetery near me. So, but yeah, and finally, but we've seen a little bit all of this, okay? So we have the additional transforms and the same thing that I mentioned before, the nodes. And then let's see the final one, that it will be the spline wall align. This one's a little bit special. And actually, I haven't seen a way of replicating it with the procedural tools, the procedural content generation. So we will see the first other two. But you can see here, same thing. I'm going to modify, I'm going to try to replicate the other one. So we're going to do this. And this one, it's a similar spline. I'm just going to exaggerate it a little bit more. And what we're going to do, we're going to click this one there, and we're going to get this mossy stone wall, okay? So let's click this one there, and I'm going to apply it. This is one different thing. We don't have an array of these. Basically, we have only one mesh to put, okay? So this is one of the big differences. And now we see that it's not perfect as we have it here. And sometimes this is good, but it will depend very much on the mesh you're using here. So one of the biggest difference that I can see here is that actually if I move this, it's going to be behaving really, really well because I cannot see this kind of differences. And in order to have this, I'll see that the offset control that I'll be working with, it's a little bit higher. And also the scale control won't vary. So I have this, like, sorry, the scale, the max scale randomness, it's here. So right now, one of the things that I see is that I have this element here. And it's not bad. I mean, it's just like a creative decision. It depends on how do you want to behave, okay? So we can see that we could make this like the scale. If I put two, this will modify. Okay, I even can put like things like that. So this would be very different. And one of the things that I'm going to, just in order to replicate what I had on the other one, I'm going to put one. So now you see how we have the same scale, and it's not going to be generating any kind of different elements that are surpassing the like a height line or plane. But we still have this. And again, it could be desired or it could be not. In my situation, in my decision, it was not the best. I actually wanted to behave like one only continuous wall. And for that, what I need to do, I'm going to close this one. I need to modify the offset control, and I want to make it. If you can see, if I put 0.5, it's going to be like that. So it's nothing similar of what I wanted. But if I put 0.5, basically what I'm going to have is that they are going to overlap a little bit. Okay. But it's so little that basically I lose this gap. And at the same time, I don't see a huge difference. I have it a little bit here, but this is only when I do like big curves. Okay. If you keep it a little bit like straight, or even we could control a little bit more the offset, we can control how much of this we get. Okay, but basically my study here, my research here was that 1.5 was 1.05 was pretty good if I didn't have like a huge curve. Okay, so this is how, for example, I could come here and draw like a wall everywhere, and I can drive it as far as I want. Okay, and I could go all over the pyramid if I wanted. Okay, so questions for now?
Can you hide the meshes and then modify the spline and show the meshes again?
Indeed, yeah. Um, I think I can. Actor hidden wall in game. Just let me check 1 second. Mm. Maybe not. This is because of performance. Are you having like problem like auto generating this? Okay, so not here. Sometimes it's just like usually we create that function, but it's not here. What we will see afterwards actually how we can do that. So how we can modify the blueprint. So one of the things that we'll see, this is driven by all of this. So we can actually, we'll be able to generate a variable here and a branch that we will build, and we can say construct. So it's true that if we, right now, every single movement, it's driving all of this logic, but we will see afterwards when we talk about variables, how we can generate like a Boolean and a branch so that this is not working. So let's keep it here, and let's do some other examples. Okay. So now you could say, well, this is cool. I mean, I think that this is pretty cool, just what we did. It's like creating a lot of randomness. I mean, we could do this by hand, but we cannot do this by hand. So, I mean, we can get and start scattering, just like get this one there and alt and then modify. But it actually takes way more time doing it by hand than only with these kind of tools. But this one is actually something that you cannot do, because when you cannot deform so easily one of the meshes. Remember that if we just come here and we place it there, this is what we have. So I could come here and I could say, okay, I do this and then that again, or I can even say, let's rotate this 180 so I can create a little bit of difference there. Okay, for a line, that's totally fine, but realize that here we're deforming the mesh, okay? And that's not so easy. So I'm going to delete this. So right now, and please just like follow me as much as you want, okay? But I'm going to try to build a full environment, like in like 15 minutes, hopefully, and we'll see how easily it is to create an environment with this kind of tools, okay? So it would be a little bit like a speed painting, but basically with this kind of elements, okay? But it's not going to be speed, it's just going to be fast. So it's not that I'm going to be like talking fast or anything like that. So basically, as I was mentioning, if we come here to procedural tools, what we have is that all these kind of things. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is to work with my mesh to spawn. So right now, and again, if you're having issues with the other one, probably you will have issues with this one. Although I can do this kind of trick before explaining variables if you want, and then I will explain it. But basically, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to come to the mega scans, not skeletal mesh, static mesh. Where are you? There. And I'm going to select a few of these query things. So let's see which one, for example, cliff one. I'm going to just check if this is like big enough. Looks nice. Maybe too much of a deformation there. Let's see if we can find another one. Maybe this one there can be nice. This one looks good. So 11. So I'm going to get the query 11 and I'm going to put it here. So you can see now that I have this asset. And now I can start modifying this and generating all of this. Here, look, here it's happening to me a little bit. So I can start doing this and starting to draw this element. So again, I totally understand what you were saying. It's actually happened to me a little bit. To me a little bit. So let's see if we can do that trick and we can modify. So I'm going to save, oh, I have to save this level. Oops. Let's do it here. I don't have my sandbox, but I can do it here. So new folder in class, and I'm going to put here levels. Okay. So query example. So what I can do is, let's see if we can modify this. So if we have the blueprint, one of the things that we need to do in order to modify this is to open the blueprint. And I opened it, clicking on this one. It's like a link, like a URL, you know. So I click it and then I bring it to Quixel Spline wall align. So one of the things that I want to do is to add a variable. Okay, so let's follow me. Please follow me, and then I will explain a little bit more. Although I will be commenting everything that I do. So basically, variables are its data. Okay, parameters. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this plus, and you see that we have a Boolean. So probably many of you already know what a Boolean is. It basically is true or false. And what I will do is like, I usually like to say B from Boolean and it's construct. Okay. And here, basically I'm saying, do I want to construct yes or no? So if I come here to default value, I'll see that I have nothing. I will talk a little bit about details, but I need to compile for this to happen. So right now I have my default value of this variable, and the default value is false. So this won't construct by default, okay? So I'm going to put it here. And one of the things that I have, so remember, this was like, for the ones who know C++, this was very similar to .a and to .h, and this is .cpp. This is the construction. I'm going to say here what I want to happen. And here I'm just saying like, this is the variable and that I have, okay, under types. So when I bring a variable to the graph, I have two main options, get and set. So when I mention, sometimes I will say a getter and sometimes a setter. So basically a get is when I get the value, I get the information that I have here. So if I bring this, I will be getting a false. If I click here and I put a checkbox like that, I will be getting a true. Okay. So here I get the information that I have from here. And just for in order to know what's the difference, if I get a setter, basically what I will be able is to modify the value, to modify the information of this part of this variable. Okay. So right now, what I will be doing is if I do like this, I will be saying that my variable that was false, now it's true. So I'm setting this variable, okay? And one of the things that we need to learn is that when we code, when we program, we need to give an order or how things are going to happen. And this is called the execution line because we're actually saying to the compiler how to execute things. So this will be the start. I will talk about the construction and the event graph afterwards. So we're going to go from the very beginning, that is, this is our start, to the next nodes. So we're going always to go from left to right. So we will start here, then it will be this, then it will be this. So it's never going to execute first this, then this branch, okay? So first, right now, I want to delete this, and I'm going to add something that we call flow. What is flow? Basically, the flow will be how we want to behave the execution line, okay? So now we're going to say, sometimes if you know a little bit about coding or about programming, you know that we have the conditionals. So here, the conditionals will behave as will be called branches, okay? So right now we have a construct that it can be true or false. So we want to mention Unreal how to behave if it's true or if it's false. So we're going to do it with a branch. So again, the execution line here is I'm coming from the construction script. I'm saying execute this branch. So if construct is true, do all these things that we were mentioning before. But if it's false, don't do anything. Okay? So basically, right now, it's not doing anything. And I can definitely move this way faster. Okay? So now I don't have this performance issue. I can just like work with this. And then it would be like, oh, but what if I want to start, like if I want to create it again? And it's like, where do I have these options? And if you go, you won't be able to see construct. And it's like, so, I mean, this is not the very best flow in the workflow because then I have to open this again and then I have to come here and modify this. And you don't have to do this. I'm going to do it. One of the things that it happens is that if I bring this again and I duplicate it, so just let me duplicate this option. You see here that I have this duplicated. Right now, both of them are not generated, not constructed. So if I click this one here and I apply it and I compile, both of them will be constructed. Okay. So everything is being generated for all of the instances that we have. But what happens if I don't want to behave like that? If I want to have the same blueprint, but different behavior by instances. So you can see here like an eye. This is not that it's hidden or like the blueprint is hidden or visible. It's basically if the variable is going to be instance editable. So if we click this, you will see that it's actually the same option as instance editable. And this is that we will be able to edit it by instance. So if I compile, I will save, and I come back here, now I will be able to see here, oh, and I have my construct option. So I will be able to click it. And now I have this option enabled here. And now I have this other one that it's not. So here we've entered a little bit. Any big questions?
No,
No?
they are following.
I'm trying to do it slowly, smoothly. Okay. So now I can delete this one there. I can start drawing. Remember always, it's good that you like once in a while click it here so that you can see that you're constructing all of this, okay, correctly. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to just bring it here. And for example, I'm going to do like a river, okay? So just let me come here. I'll bring this a little bit more. Oh, I'm clicking all of it. So I'm going to put it here. I will just like add spline point. I'll put it like that. And maybe I just close this a little bit more and rotate it. Okay. Or maybe like that. And this, I'm going to add it a little bit more like this. Perfect. So now I will click it and I will construct. Perfect. Maybe I did it too big, but anyway, it's totally fine. So now I can, as I was saying, I can offset my control. Let's see, something like this, and it will be generating it. And I can actually, yeah, basically, this is what I was mentioning. I just modify the scale quite a lot. But I mean, I did it like I did way more path, more a bigger spline that I wanted. But I can modify this. For example, the scale control, I can just like put it like maybe 3 and 3 here, so that, oops, not 1.3. Let's see. Be careful if you're modifying, like don't work with this with the slider, because it will be just like, instead of calculating one, it will be calculating all of the slides. So now it's like calculating quite a few of them. Let's see if it comes. Okay, it did. So let's see. I was mentioning 3. Okay. And maybe that's too much. So I will just click here, 2 and 2, and I'll construct it. Okay, so we can do something like that. Okay. So I'm going to generate a new spline. So just let me get it here. Procedural tools. I'm going to remove this, the wall here. And remember, now I have it that way. So what I need is actually to, this is too far, too up, too high. I need to generate it the other way around. Okay. So I actually need to rotate it and do it this way. I'm just going to come here and put top. Oh, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to do like this. I just want everything to be in the same place. And this one there, a little bit there. Oops, too much. I'm going to click here and put it there so that it's in the same place. And now I can actually go to top and I can construct here. So I did this. If you click control, I mentioned this on the introduction to Unreal. If you click control and you do click the wheel or the middle button, you do like that and it's stop. You do like this and you start modifying like front, back, etc. And if you go from the middle to any perpendicular to the left or the right, or like bottom left, bottom right, we will go to perspective. Okay, so you can very easily come here and do this. So what I'm going to do basically is like generate a little bit of this and start modifying this so that I can create this kind of river. So let's see, I'll click this, I'll click that, and let's put myself like that. And then I could even create a new one. Oops, not here, here. I'm going to put it a little bit like that. And maybe I can modify this one also um, put it a little bit here. Okay, so we have this, and let's see, let's go to perpendicular to the perspective, and we're going to say construct. Okay, so this one is still empty. So let's get the same one. It's totally fine. Let's put it here. And same thing, I'm going to put 2 and 2 so that it's more or less the same thing. And then I think I put 1.05 and I'll click transport. So more or less, this should be kind of similar, okay? So one of the things why I wanted you to bring this element is because I know I have a water plane. So if I come here and I write water, I should have this water, and at the same time, I know I should have a plane somewhere, but I can use any kind of plane. Okay, so basically, we would be able to just come here, bring, for example, a shape, to draw a plane, to just scale it as much as we want. Oops, not here. I'm going to just construct this like that. It's a little bit high. I'm going to put it a little bit higher than 0, just in order to make this work better. And I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to put it here in the middle, and I'm going to just make it bigger. Maybe this is a little bit, I'm going to put it like 100, maybe a little bit more, 300, too much. Okay, so like that, I can put it there and I can just cover everything, okay? So as I was mentioning, I will click this water and I will put it here. Let's see, I should be compiling. So right now we have this water happening here, okay? So this is a little bit what I was trying. Maybe as I mentioned, I think my scale is just like I did it too big, but doesn't matter. Let's put it like this, and I can just like minimize this a little bit. So it's going to be my canyon. Okay, it's more or less looking like it. So let's save just in case it crashes or anything like that. So is everything okay, more or less?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So now I'm going to go back to the cliffs because I want to find some other things. Let's see if I can see something that I like. So I have a few of this, the limestone, something here. Let's see what I can have. Let's dock it.
Can you show again what is the water material?
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't even I don't even know. I just
Okay.
like click the content, and I know there is one that it's called water. So I just looked for I wrote here in the search bar water, and I can find water. But I can see now that if you imported that, it's inside game and materials. Okay, so it's game. Just for you to know, usually when we see here game, it's content. If we go back, I could go down here, it will be here. Okay, water. So we have here water and water. So this is the instance, and this is here. So and actually, if you want to use water, this is a pretty nice material. Okay, perfect. This is something that I use quite a lot. If I don't know where something, but I can remember a little bit the name, I just put it here. I go to my content folder and I'll just browse. Where is it here? And for example, you know that it's a material, you can come here. So use these filters on the search bar as much as possible, because now I have here material. So I click here and I have it here. So I know that I will be able to use this. Okay. So yeah. and I will delete this. So as I was saying, right now what I'm going to go in Megascans 3D assets, I'm going to filter through 3D through static meshes. I docked my I docked the content browser, and now what I want to do is to find some elements like this. So for example, I have this limestone. I'll be working with the scales. Okay, so for example, I'm going to be, I don't know, like 5. Okay, so I'll be able to put this. Maybe I can even go like 10. It's just like, rocks in a way. It's true that pebbles can look a little bit too high, too big, but I'm just going to do like that. And you know what? I could be using perfectly here the scatter. You remember? Like the one there. So what I'm going to be using here is that I'll be going to the procedural tools. You know that I have it here. Blueprints, procedural tools, and I'll be getting the random scatter. So I'll place it there. And now I will go back to 3D assets. I will go for a static mesh. Let's say I will get this one there. I'll just add meshes to spawn, like a couple of them. I will get this one that it looks nice. This other one. Yeah. And maybe that one. Let's see. So I want this radius to be bigger. So let's see, 3,000. Maybe it's too much. Let's see where it is. Maybe yes. So 2,000. And I'm going to be putting like, I don't know, 15, too much. So radius control. Definitely I'm having in this project, I started like having an issue of scale. So, but I'll be scaling everything. Usually I would take the time to just scale the spline for the spline path. Okay. As I don't want to do it, I'm just going to scale everything. But again, this is not like the best option. So minimum scale, I'm going to put here like 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. And then here I'm going to put like 3.5, 3.5, and 3.5. Okay, so this is more or less working. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the radius control a little bit. So, yep, I have it there. So I have kind of this element of it there. Perfect. Perfect. So I'm having this, and I have kind of this kind of element there. If you see, I can reduce a little bit the radius, and I can build this. So it's working. I have this part. I want to put it a little bit down so that it comes inside the water. So it's working. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, and I know you already worked with it, with foliage. So we could go to foliage and create the foliage type and use the European trees here from Megascans. I'm just going to place them. Okay, so just let me check the static mesh. We should have a tree. Let's see where it is. It's not in 3D plans. Maybe I moved it. We have these ones they are in the folder, European Hornbeam. Okay, so they are here. And most probably if you're using the Epic Bootcamp, if I come to foliage, I should have also foliage somewhere here. Landscape, foliage type, and I have these ones. Okay. So they are already prepared because of the project, because this is the project of the bootcamp project. So we can just like bring them here. I'm not going to explain about foliage because you saw it yesterday. Yeah. Okay, so I won't lose a lot of time there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put single, and I'll click this one. How about that? Perfect. Nice. Let's put it there. Oops, it's not being generated. Okay. And I can put it here. I'm going to click this one there. A little bit of randomization. I can put it there. And now I'm going to get this one here. And I'll put a few that are smaller. Okay. So that's not bad. I usually like to build a little bit more something here. Let me go back to the cliffs. Let's go back to the cliffs. So we have the Megascan assets, static mesh, and then let's put something limestone, something there. It's just in order to generate a little bit of space here. Something like that. Maybe this one here. Okay. Something like this. I'll just make this one a little bit higher. Okay. And of course, we can just put them down so that it's the water that generates this kind of islands and not the end of the geometry. Okay. So again, I'm going to come here to foliage. I'm going to click single and I'll click a few of these. And I'm going to get one of the big ones and I'll put it in the middle. Okay, it's not bad. And let's get a second one. Okay, so we're having a little bit of our river, and we've spent like what, like 15 minutes, something like that. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate the second. I'm going to be working. So you remember I've worked with the wall align, I've worked with the random scatter, and right now I'm going to be working with the spline scatter. Okay, so let's put it here. And I'm going to put it around here. Again, I can go to the top view and I can put it here a little bit like that. Let's see. And let's start playing with it. So what I'm going to do is just, I'll try to generate like foliage, like some grass that is growing on the sides of the river. So I will just get this one there. I'll put it here. I'm going to do it. Of course, if it would be like a real project, I would take more time to do it a little bit more into detail. You know, I'm trying to just build something with you here. So we can build it like that. We will be able to modify it afterwards. Don't worry. We can do this like that, like this, like this. For me, the important part is that you get what I'm doing and you understand it. So something like this, something like this, and something like that. Okay. And same thing, I would be just doing the same thing over here. Spline scatter. I'll move it there. I'll take this node and I'll put it here. I'll put it here, and I will continue through this. I mean, it won't be my best environment, but hopefully you get what I want to mention. I can do it like this. You can go as detailed as you want, okay? Probably the difference between here, it's like what, like 1 meter. I mean, it's more or less okay. So let's go here to see if it's working. I'll just put it up, something like that. Okay. So, you know, I have this spline, I have this other spline, and what do I want to put? Some grass. And I want to add some grass, and I know I have it here on 3D plants. So I'll come here, let's say, let's add some meshes. Let's start adding some meshes. So I'll get this one there. I can start seeing it. Oh, let's see, it's too deep. So something like that. Remember that I have my issue with the scale. So I'm just scaling everything. Please don't do that. It's just that I missed it. But of course, you can just like do it like that. You see here, I I have an empty one. So if I actually right now in creating a space, if you need random space, you can actually add a space here. You'll see that if I add more, I will add more space. So space is actually not a mesh, but it's actually an option here. So I can add one of these. I can get more of this. I can just get this one there. I don't know if it's number 4. So I can add that one. And yeah, I can definitely add a space. So yeah, probably this one's getting too big. So I will delete this one and I will get some more like this one here, like 2. Okay. And I will do a little bit of the same. I'll just probably 1 meter. It's more than I wanted. So let's see one like that. This is looking better. And I can do exactly the same here. So I will add like four of them. Let's see, I will add number 2. I will add number 4. I will add number, this is 2 again. So I can add 1. Oh, I didn't add 4. I can add 5. And of course, I had the random scale 3. And there you go. So let me put it up. Let me move it a little bit so that I can, oops, I can add it there. And I can start moving this. And probably I will need to put everything a little bit down. Yeah, maybe that's too much. Okay. And one of the things I like to do is that there are like some assets here that are really, really nice. I love this element here. And I'm going to add a new scatter. I'm just going to double check if it's the one that I want. I'm not sure if it's exactly that one. Just let me double check. There was one that it was like kind of perfect, but I cannot find it now. And this was it. Ah, no, this is the same. Well, anyway, what I wanted to do, I'll just like put them like pretty much together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be working with this one here, number 9, and this one is like number 3. And I will again get the procedural tools. I will get the random scatter, and I will add this 2. And I will go back to 3D assets, static meshes, get this one there, and I'll get this one here. I will work with the scale, minimum scale. Let's put 2.5 as always, and then 3.5. Maybe I will even go bigger. Like, let's see, 555 and 888. Okay. And then I can get a few of this. Let's put like 5. Well, okay, this was too big. I was getting only one, and the variation of the scale was really small. So let's go back, but 2 and then 3. So this is pretty much what I wanted. What I can do right now is like augment a little bit the scale over there, and I will modify a little bit the seed so that I get something that I like. Let's put here like 10, and I will just drop it down. Okay. Oops, right hit. Here, I'll put it like that. There. Okay, and something that I can also do, let's get a little bit of one of these, and I'll put it here, there, and I'll make it even bigger so that it kind of stays there. Okay, what I would do in a normal case is that I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I will try to find the seed that actually works with mine. Okay. I don't know why there is a tree here. Just let me get this one here. So select, and I will delete it. I'll just draw a lasso. Oops. Let me get, I don't know why am I getting this, but anyway, it's okay. Actually, it kind of looks nice. Pixels better. Okay. So basically, it's copying the other options too. So as I paint it over here, it's fading over there. Actually, got I got the trees from there. So, but it's not a problem actually. I'll just here. It's the one that I was missing, and hopefully I can delete these ones. Yep. Okay. Good enough. So right now we have this, and we have our scene, and we've built it in quite a little time, and it's pretty cool. And one of the things we'll see a little bit more about the different kind of options that we have here. That it's like about sun, and we can start looking a little bit. Of course, we see this kind of things that we can work out more in detail, but we can do really nice things and like that. And just as I know that you've seen I know that you've seen the foliage, we can actually do something that I like. That let's see if I can find it here. That is, if I go to here, I want to see if I have something that is related to plants. Maybe not. I actually, if you bring the European the European hornbeam, sometimes you get some like an element that can allow you to modify the season and the different elements and so on. So this is pretty cool. Actually, if you go here, hornbeam. You click here, actually you will be able to see it around here. I can't remember right now if it's in there. This is it. This global foliage actor. This is pretty cool. So I'm going to, I couldn't remember the name. I'm just going to, yeah, here it is. So let me check it and put it over there.
We saw it yesterday.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. I didn't remember. So yeah, exactly. So you can now come. Actually, I feel that my light is a little bit high, but don't worry about this. We'll just like work with it. But now it's kind of the opposite. So let me just get this. I will bring a little bit up the intensity of the scale, something like this. I think it's kind of good. And yeah, so I can bring a little bit higher the exponential high fog. No, that's too much. Okay, maybe that's a little bit up.
Nice works here.
Yeah, so let me find five of maybe one. Something like this is good. I would tend a little bit. I like more like the sunsets, something like this. And then let's make it a little bit. Um, let's make it a little bit like season. So we have season strength. Oh, this is nice. Brightness, saturation. Let's make it a little bit more like that. And what do you think about this? Isn't this cool? So we've built this like in half an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool. And you can see many different things. We can start playing. Oh, and we haven't seen yet like bot race and stuff like that. But yeah. So my message here is like I know like blueprints can be tricky and maybe a new thing, but like these three elements, these three options, these three blueprints, actually you can do so much with them. So try to use them if you consider, and this can just like generate us in half an hour like a really nice query world or anything similar. Okay. So questions still here?
Not really. They are enjoying this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you there? No, there are no questions because
no,
everybody got bored,
they
or
are sending some landscapes here.
yeah.
We would like to see your landscapes.
Nice. Oh, Ruben, this was cool. Yeah, more adding more meshes will create more of it. Yeah, exactly. The point is that what I would do is I would find one of this that it's perfect, you know, like it's like a 360. This one is not. So you can have things like this that are not recommended. But I mean, there are many things that you can do. You can even just like come here. I mean, I'm going to do something that it's out of the, let's see, out of the class, but I think that it can even make it a little bit better. So I would get one of this. That is the one that it's like that. I can maybe come here to the modeling tools. I can duplicate it, leave 09, and let's call it full like 360. And accept, so I don't modify that one. I can actually put it like this, and I will duplicate it. It's not perfect anyway. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Anyway, the point is that try to find one that it could be good. Here, I could actually merge them. Okay, merge multiple meshes to create new objects. So write to new object or first input object. I can put it here. So this is going to be the 360, the one that I did. So yeah, so I do like that. And now instead of doing this one, I can just generate this 360. And then I will remove this one here. So now the point is that I have too many, and let's do it like that. I can have a couple of them, and in a way, they look cool. Okay. So you know, I mean, nothing extremely fancy, but it works. It's useful. Okay. How can you make the sky look like a sunset? This will see it tomorrow, but just like a little spoiler, if you click Control L, you get this, so you can modify this. Okay, you see?
Control L that you are asking a lot.
Control L, so you can be working with this.
They are also asking a lot about the water. So like how to do floating things and how to do the river go. But I think that's the water plugin.
That's the water tools, yeah. And
That's
that would be like a whole class.
Yeah, that's
okay.
super good.
So I mean, what I would do is like don't try buoyancy. So this would be the buoyancy. Here you can modify a little bit if you want. Like actually, you could create like an instance. I can go here and I can create a new instance. We'll put it in class. Okay, so I'll put it there. So now, or just click this one so I can modify it. So you can, if you want, you can just come here and modify a little bit the absorption and put it, be careful because this can be tricky. I mean, you need to take a little bit of time if you want to put it like more, greenish and things like that. Okay. So you can actually play with it a little bit and that's it. So, what else? So what I actually wanted to explain you, and I've been doing a spoiler of my own slides, is that you could see that what is the flow. So basically an event. So basically all of this, like all the execution lines start on an event. Okay. So when we come here, let's open the spline. You remember that we did this construct and this. So basically, this is the execution line. And the construction script, that it's something that we're going to mention, is that it's an event that it's triggered, or when you move it, or when you drop it, better said, when you drop the asset on the level, or when you actually modify one of its parameters. And it's really important to understand that the construction script is a construction event. So it's not it's not triggered in runtime. Okay. So everything that is in runtime will be here. And actually there is one thing that is the begin play event. Okay. So when we hit play, basically we say that this is the trigger. So all of the red elements, and actually we can call something that is the custom event. A custom event, it's something that we say, for example, make the ball. I can actually put the spaces here. Make the ball bounce. So here we will code an event that will actually make the ball bounce. Probably we won't do it here in the line wall line because it means nothing. But we can actually create a new blueprint for the ball to bounce, for a ball to bounce, and actually we will do it here. Okay, so here we'll start. I will get. So here what we would do is we would add here a component that will be a sphere or a ball. We will bring it here. You can see that I can bring a component, and then we'll say modify the transform, and we would put a timeline that. Timeline that it's basically in order to generate like a modification, like a clock, and then like any kind of graph that we would want. Okay, so you don't need to follow me. It's just like I'm trying to explain a little bit the different options that we have, and then from this movement of the curve, we'll get a transform. So if we get like a mesh, we'll get a transform, and we will bring the z value exactly from the value of the graph. Okay, we will be able to modify and multiply it if we want to modify the height and this kind of thing. So all of this is triggered from a ball, okay, from an event. Okay, and all the events are like red. And here, for example, we have print string that basically prints a string here, and etc. Okay. So functions and macros are basically as in programming. So it's like a collection. It's like a group of nodes. Okay. and output and input. So basically, when we have a node, as we output the value from the right part of the node and we input it here. So remember that we saw that with the control rig. So this is very, very similar to the control rig workflow. And then we have the types. We wrote here the Boolean, but if we come here, I'm just going to delete this. We will be able to see that we have a mesh. So we have us at the type here is a static mesh. We have a random stream that is a blue that is a little bit darker. We have an enum that is basically like a dark turquoise or a dark green, bluish. We have the vector, we have floats that are basically numbers with decimals, okay? We could have integers that are numbers without decimals. So we have so many types as classes and primitives, okay? Then, we saw getters and setters from variables, and we have our components and the blueprint classes that we already mentioned about. And one of the things that I want you to understand is that as Unreal is built on C++, and it's an object-oriented programming element, like a system. Okay, so this means that this is working with objects. So what we have here is that, and we can see it, an object, it's everything in Unreal. And then we have, for example, an actor. So everything is inside this kind of hierarchy. And we work with the inheritance concept. So we will have the biggest parent, like the most parent of all, is the object. And then, for example, we have an actor. An actor has everything that the object has, plus a transform component, a transform property. Okay, so here you will see when we come here, like we have this transform. Basically, an object is everything in Unreal, and then we have the next one is an actor. So nothing can be placed in a level if it's not an actor, because it misses the transform component. Okay, so when if we want to place something there, we need that thing is an actor or a child of an actor. So we will be able to start working with it. So right now, for example, if I come to blueprint class and I'll see all classes, I can see that the parent is the object. And from them, for example, I have all of this. All of these ones are the next hierarchy. I have an actor here, and I have all this hierarchy. So this one is inheriting directly. This is a direct child of actor. And for example, I can see camera actor, and then I can see a cine camera actor that it's a child of the camera actor. And then here I could have a VCAM camera actor or virtual camera actor. And then finally here, the component. So basically you can see how everything comes in a hierarchy. Okay. So this is a little bit what I want you to see. For example, a light, then it's a point light comes from a light. So this is why many things, like all the lights, share some attributes, some properties, or some variables, because it's basically those come from light. Okay. Construction script. We've already talked about it. So basically, this is when it's constructed. We don't need it. We can activate that. We can trigger this not without being in runtime. Okay. So this is why we're building everything in the construction script, because if we build it, if all of this was on the event graph, we wouldn't be able to trigger it while in editor because we're not running it. Okay, so this is extremely important to understand. And one of the things that it's important for us to understand also is that if we can trigger a blueprint in sequencer, but not if it's in runtime, it's not going to be working. We won't be able to see it if it's in runtime. We will be able to trigger it in sequencer if it's in runtime, but we won't see it if we are in editor. So we will only see it if we have it in the construction script, because Unreal Engine is still not running. So this is a very important concept. But not always we will be able to see it. We will be able to see it if we enable this checkbox, run construction script in sequencer. Okay. But although we have this, sometimes we won't be able to access a variable. Why? Because when we click the variable, we need to say exposed to cinematics. So we will be able to modify any variable in sequencer that it's exposed, and we will be able to see if its reaction, its generation in a way, if it's built in the construction script, and if we have the class settings option enabled of run construction script in sequencer. That's it. That's everything you need to know about blueprints. No, not everything, but the most important thing you need to know about blueprints and construction scripts and sequence. Okay. So you have to have both. So you in order to access a variable from a blueprint in sequencer, you need to activate it here. And you won't be able to see the reaction during the editor if you're running the event graph, but you will be able to see like all the code that is in construction script, but it won't be triggered unless this option is there. You could have this running, this being executed on the construction script, but you won't be able to access the variable from sequencer if it's not exposed to cinematics. Okay, so talked about the event graph and construction script. This is, I mean, a little bit of chit chat on geometry scripting tools. So we've gone through a couple of hours. We can do a 15 minutes break. How do you feel about that? Or you want 2 more hours? Not really. Yes, I think we'll be for a minute. Sounds good. Perfect. Well, hopefully you're enjoying this. I feel it's a pretty, it can be a little messy, not messy, a little confusing at the very beginning. But I think that being able to generate all of this in like such a brief time, it's such a short time, it's really nice. Perfect. Well, let's do this break. Oh, whoa, Subaida, nice,
Very nice.
nice. Um, well, see you everybody in 15. Back. Well. Oh yeah, I'm checking. So yeah, the water tools. Subaida, if I'm right, you're using the water tools, like the one. These are pretty cool. For my opinion, a little bit too bluish at the very beginning, but yeah, you can make it work afterwards without a problem. So let's continue. Um, so I have this extra thing. I'm thinking that we have this geometry scripting part. Let's go with this. I didn't know if it was better to go with the procedural content generation, but actually that's like an extra. It should be here. This is like, I created this, all this part, but let's go with the geometry scripting. So what is geometry scripting? Basically, just like, let me come here. So we're going to forget about this. I'll save it there. I was going to start talking about lighting a little bit to fix a few things, but no, that's tomorrow. So that's tomorrow. So let's come here and let's go to a basic level. I'm going to save it. Let's put it here in class levels, geometry, scripting. Okay. So new MT level. So the very first thing we need to know about geometry scripting and how to set it up. And basically, I've set up here the plugins that are required. So we have here plugins, and let's see. So we have the modeling tools that are there, modeling tools, skeletal mesh modeling tools. We're not going to see this one there, but also this other. But basically, the most important part it's this one. And then let's go to geometry. So probably we have geometry script. Let's see if by scripting it's better. So we have no. Let's see with geometry. But yeah, this is the one, and then we have some other things like geometry mode. But basically, the one that it's really most important for us is this one here that actually we already have it enabled. Okay, you can see this one geometry script and these others. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do, this is like blueprint driven. Okay, so is that you'll see anyway, you can always, so the good thing about this project is that you have everything already done. So it's basically, it's already here. What we're going to do is just like basically rewrite it. Okay. Bake to new static mesh. That's a function that we won't do, but in this case, I just left it here for you to have it. What we're going to be doing is this on the event graph. Okay. So this is the one that we're going to be building. I'm going to put it here. And we're going to do it by like from scratch. So we'll come here. We're going to go to in class. I'm going to just generate here blueprints, and I'm going to add here scripting, geo scripting, and here I'm going to start with the blueprint class. So as you see here, one of the first thing we need to do is, I know it's dynamic, it's dynamic mesh actor. So you'll need to see that here from all classes, this is usually collapsed. So you come here and you put dynamic, and we need to go here and we see generated dynamic mesh actor, or actually was the other way around. Dynamic mesh actor. Okay, so we have it. No, I think we're going to get this one here. Sorry, it's written the other way around, but it's actually a little bit confusing. It's generating dynamic mesh actor. So this is the one. Okay, so we're clicking this one, and we're going to call it BP, and I mentioned like golden wall, and then in class. I'm going to write here so that I know that it's the one I did through the class. So we're going to open it. Let's see. So the very first thing that we see here is that we already have one thing that is called the dynamic mesh component. Okay. So when we come to the event graph, this is a little bit what we can see always in a blueprint that it's from scratch, that it's blank, and it's the actor begin overlap, the event take, and the begin play. This doesn't mean that we need to use them. Actually, we won't be using them. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to call a new event that it's called generated mesh. Generated mesh. So the event, it's called on rebuild generated mesh. So this one here, what it will create is a new mesh that is done through the geometry scripting framework. Okay. So the very first thing that we can do, although it will do nothing right now, is that if we come here, we're going to drop it here. Okay. You just see element zero, like it has nothing and it's totally fine. It's just like we'll start working with it and we'll see what it does afterwards. So let's come here. So in order to create the golden box, probably as you remember from the level, what I wanted to do is like this front wall that basically it's like a wall with a triangle because of the pyramid. So and then make it with the golden material. Okay. So I'm going to do it not on the like the perfect workflow. So when I mean the perfect workflow is that if once I already developed it, I could go like now I want to set the material as you will be able to see on the blueprint. Now I set a pen box. So I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to do it in a way that we generate our like basic things and then we will start like making a little bit more advanced. So what I mean with this is like right now what I just want to do is the wall controller and then the hole, and then we will see when exactly do we need to add the set material, because for example the set material is actually the first node that we have on the final version, but it's not the one that it's more important right now. For me, it's not important to set the material right now. What I actually need to see is how I am regenerating this box. Okay, so let's go like that, and then we will be able to add nodes in the middle of the workflow of the flow. So the point here is that in order to add a mesh, right now we have the like the memory allocation. So in a way we're constructing this, but what we need to do is like give it a form, give it a geometry. So for that, we come here and we say box. Actually, a box can be, it's like a not, it's not a cube. It's just like a rectangular geometry. Okay. And we see that we can find here a pen box. So in geometry script. So this let us know that actually when I want to give a morphology to one of a mesh, a dynamic mesh, basically I need to call it append. So if I come here and I write append, I will be able to see all these different geometries or forms that I want to generate and that I could generate. But for now, it's just box. So I'll click box. And whenever and always that we're programming or coding, one of the things that we have to to understand is that we will have some default values, but in a way, programming is just asking ourselves things that by default we wouldn't be asking. So I want a cube. Okay, so you have a cube. So by default, it's going to be 1 meter per 1 meter per 1 meter. But in a way, I can modify that. But I can also modify the origin. But I can also modify like the number of triangles that I want. Like I can modify so many things that I need to know that it by default we have the default values, but actually we can modify those, and this is why I need variables, because I will need these variables and I will want these variables in order to modify these kind of parameters. Okay, so all these parameters are what I can do here. So in order to generate this box, the geometry scripting framework allows us to modify this. So the origin, the gizmo, like the pivot, where it is base, it's in the center. Like how many steps do I want it to have? The dimension of each of the edges, and basically the transform, where do I want to put it, and the different primitive options that actually, if you just click here, when you say primitive options, like, okay, here I already see that it's a plural. So it's not only one. So when I right click, one of the things that I will be able to do to see, and this is by default on everything. It's like splitting. And now, what are the primitive options? So it's the polygroup mode, the Boolean, the flip orientation, and the UV mode. It's not relevant for me. It's just like I wanted you to, I wanted to show you that you can split or recombine different structures. Okay. Transform, I guess everybody will understand that transform is location, it's rotation, and it's a scale. So when I come here, I will be able to split it, and then I will have location, rotation, scale, and back. Okay, so recombine. And you can see here split and location, of course, is a combination, is a structure of three floats. So this would be a vector, vectors are like three axes, although we can have like 2D and 3D and 4D vectors. But basically, if we split it, we will have like the three floats. Remember, floats are numbers with decimals, okay? In this case, it's double precision. Just for you to know, if you have programming knowledge, you will understand it. If you don't understand it, basically it's like it has a lot of precision, double precision. Basically, it came with Unreal Engine 5 in order to support GIS. GIS is basically for those who come from AEC, architecture, engineering, construction. GIS software or GIS concepts basically is like world scale. Okay, so it's not that our scale will be a few kilometers, like we could have like a whole planet. Okay, so this is why it's double precision. So we recombine. Let's stop the chit chat and let's continue. So right now we have a box. We have it. Okay, it's a box. I'm not even sure if I will be able to see it here. Yes, I see it here. So right now I have a box, but it's 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, and 0 steps. The transform is basically in the base. So this is why I put it here and I see it here. So what can I do if I want to modify this? I could start like modifying this number to then compile, and whoa, I have this, that it's like double the edge on the axis, sorry. But what if I want to modify it by default? If I want to modify the default version or this number actually. So one of the things that I will need to do is to create a variable. So I come here and you can see here, I can see that it's a fold single precision. Okay. So I will be able to come here, I will click plus variable, and remember that I had this part here that is what we'll call, before I said construct. But what else do I want to, so imagine, do you remember that when we hit it transform and we splitted it, we had this, that it's a vector. So it's not that it's not that I want to get three floats, that I could get three floats and modify the float by I modify each edge by one of the by one of the floats, is that I want to get the benefit of Unreal that actually allows me, if I put a vector that it's a structure of three floats, to activate one thing that says that it's called show 3D widget here. Okay, but I cannot click it, and this is because in order to modify the 3D widget, I need to make it instance editable. You remember that instance editable, basically it was allowing every single instance of this blueprint to be modified in per instance. So basically this is it. So now I have so 3D widget. Okay. So if I go back here, what I will be able to see is that you see this new bar. So now I can modify this widget and move it around. Okay. And this option, I have it, we'll delete this. I have it with the vector variable, okay, type of variable. So now I'm going to be calling this wall construct. Okay. So I bring it here and I get a get. So I bring a getter. So right now I won't be able to put it here because the type of variable is not the same. So for this, I have two options, or split it directly, or something that I also like is to do a break vector. So if I put here break, I will be able to break it, and it's basically the same thing, okay? So I will bring dimension X, dimension Y, and dimension Z, and we'll click compile. So do you remember that here we had this element? So right now I can modify it. And I can move it. If I do like this and you see it like that, it's because I just like multiply it. I created it with a negative value. So my UVs are actually the other way around, my normal, sorry. So I'm here, but I think we would agree that this gizmo here wouldn't be, I mean, this is not the optimal. Basically, I would like to have this gizmo with my corner of the wall. Okay, so this is one of the things that is happening. So what actually happens? If we click here, we will see, just analyzing, that this is the center and this is the wall, the gizmo. So more or less, we could agree that this is like kind of half of the path, half of the way. And what would happen here? Do I feel it's more or less the same thing? Actually, I feel that it's the same thing. And what happens here? Oh, this is actually not halfway. It's like the full way. So what is happening right now? I don't know if anybody will be able to mention it. Let's see, Discord.
They are a bit lost.
They are this. What's the issue to now?
I would say repeat everything.
Okay, I've done very
Yeah.
little, so okay. So from scratch, from the very beginning, actually, the point is that you come here, and as we were saying, we want to create a blueprint class. From here, we were talking about hierarchy. So this is like the object. What we know is that we want to create a dynamic mesh actor. So we come here, and the one that we want to create is a generated dynamic mesh actor. Okay. So we open it, and you can see that I open this one here because this is a child. Every time you create one blueprint from from one type of class or from one class, basically is a child of the one that you selected. So my parent class is the generated dynamic mesh actor. Okay. So the other time we were doing it in construction script, but right now we're doing on the event graph. Just know that. Okay, so the point is that this is prepared to be working on the event graph, and this is because it's the type of dynamic mesh component. Okay, so just for you to know that, sometimes it's just like good to know why, but or how it is. So the point here is that in order to be able to access this dynamic mesh component right now, we're getting this event. And how do I know this? Because I go to the documentation and they tell us. Okay, so it's not by I wasn't enlightened to just like okay, I know that I have to get this. It's just like I went to documentation and you can see it there in order to work with the geometry scripting to be able to build this. So right now I just right click here and I said I wrote here generated mesh. So I need an event in order to start the construction. You remember that I said construction script is my trigger for the execution line. I could get the any of these as the start of my execution line. So I need another event in order to start this. So every time that you actually come with one of these and release the button, you get all of the options. If you put it context sensitive, all of the options you can actually come here and do. So I just wrote it here because I wanted to do a box. I knew I wanted to do a box, but actually I could get any of this. Okay, so any of these elements will be an option. But as I know I want to do a box, I just write it down and I see it here. So I click it, and this is basically what I have here. So when I have this box, what I mentioned, when all the speech that was talking about, basically is that when we code something, when we build something, we usually have default values, because if we wouldn't have default values, we wouldn't be able to build it from the very beginning. But although we have default values, we can modify those. And in programming, we're going to modify those with variables. So as I mentioned, I had this like that. I was clicking the wrong key. So these are the default values. I can modify these and click compile, and they will be changing, but I will only have this as static values. Okay. So in order to be able to modify them in runtime or like dynamically, I want a variable. So what I know, and this is a little bit, I mean, this is an example, and you need to get some info from me. I'm trying to explain as much as I can, but there is some info. Then you just need to get it from what I say. Is that we need here a vector, so we need to modify these floats, and a vector basically is a structure of three floats, or of two or four. Actually, if we go to the materials, we can have vector of two, of three, and of four. But in this case, we want x, y, z, so it's a vector of three. And in this case, we want to generate this variable. And I want a variable that is a vector because I want to have the show 3D widget option enabled. Okay, so I click it here, and this option actually allows me to, when I compile, to get this element that I can modify. So I will be able to run this in runtime and in editor. So I will be able to modify this dynamically. Okay. What I was saying, and I'm right now at the same point. What I'm saying is that if we move this right now, if we click this, it's half of the way. And why is it half of the way? And this is, for example, the Z, it's not half of the way. It's because my pivot point, when I generate this cube, the pivot point here, it's on my base. Okay. If I click center, it would be in the center. And right now I would have the same thing happening on the Z, but I'm setting it here on the base. If I had an option that said one of the I'll say it, of the vertices, it would be here. So it would be great. So right now, what I need to do, what I actually need to do, is to set up my cube exactly on one of those vertices. That is this one here. So you know that when we're working with a mesh, we usually decide where to put the pivot point. But the thing here is that we don't have that mesh in order to drive the pivot point where we want. The point is that the blueprint will be our pivot point for everything that is going to be generated. So the origin of the blueprint will be my pivot point. So the thing is that as I can't modify the pivot point, what I can do is I can modify the geometry position. So right now, what I want to do is to place this geometry exactly like this vertex to be here, so that when I move this variable, it actually brings this value onto this edge. Okay. So right now, what I need to do is to one thing that is called translate the mesh. So I'm going to put it here. Translate the mesh. So this will be, I will be applying a translation, a transform into my mesh. Okay. So what is the transform that I want to put? As I need my pivot point to be on this vertex, I need to move this half of the way on X, and half of the way on Y. Okay? So what basically I have here is that, and this is nice to know, if you see here, I can get a double click. You can see it here. Like if I double click it here, I will create these nodes. Okay, just double clicking the line. If I want to have half of this way, this is a variable. I will need to get the X and the Y, and half of it will be a division by 2. Okay, so I will bring this, and I will with the division, you can write divide, or you can just go to your block number, I mean to your numeric pad, and click the division, and you will get this divide. Okay, and we'll click 2 because we want half of the distance between the vertex, this gizmo, and the origin of the blueprint. So this is it. Okay. So what happens right now? We have half of X and half of Y. We don't want to move on half of Z because basically it's what we already have. We already have it there. Our pivot actually made this as we're running on the base. Our pivot is on the base. So right now, what I want to do, and you can see here, I need a vector. And you remember that I mentioned here a break. So the opposite of break is to make. Okay, so I'll come from here and I'll say make vector. So I have it here. So the distance that I will be moving my geometry will be 0 in Z. So I won't put anything. Half of, let me check which one is this one, half of X and half of Y. So if I compile right now, this means that I have the gizmo value that it's by default 0, but I can modify it dynamically. I get this value and I generate this size of dimension X, of dimension Y, and dimension Z. But as my pivot is on the base, so it's on the center of the XY, but on the base of Z, I need to translate to translate this X and Y, half of that measurement, into this new option. So I have this box and I translate this box. And right now I will have it here. So I'm translating this and I'm actually now driving my geometry here with this gizmo. Okay. So let's continue. Are there many questions yet?
No, I'm just trying to help people because some people they are not seeing the box, but
box.
Yeah,
remember, try that always that have this generated. Oh, and if you don't see it at all, maybe you're in another project. If you need geometry, you need this to see it. If you don't have this plugin activated, that in our project it's activated by default, you won't be able to see it. Okay, because basically this is allowing us to access this module here that is geometry scripting. Just like, I mean, you can see it here. Geometry script. Okay, I don't know why I didn't see it there, but anyway, it's there. Here it is. Okay, so if you don't have that plugin, you won't be able to see this module. Okay, and basically we're getting all of this from there. It's a pen box. It's under geometry script and primitives. If you click it here, you'll bring it. Okay, so we've done that. So what we want to do right now is to generate the like the hole, and a hole basically we will need another geometry. We will need to define how we want that hole to be. Okay, so for that we need to generate a new geometry, and this is another thing that they say on the documentation, so it's not that I just created on my own. In order to bring another geometry, another dynamic actor, dynamic mesh actor, I need to come here and I need to say allocate compute mesh. So I bring another mesh, okay? I generate another mesh. So I will put it here. Once I've created this geometry, I bring another one. But the same way that it happened before, I have the geometry, but I don't have a geometry itself. I just know that I'm going to build it, but I don't have the form. So right now, if I would like to create a sphere, I would like to put a pen sphere, but I want to bring another box because I want to do this kind of triangle. So I want to generate a box that I will rotate it in order to generate this kind of triangle. And I will generate this hole between one box and the other. So I put this. So, and just for you to understand the difference between the vector and this, one of the things that I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the variables in here, okay? And the way that I can do it basically is just like right clicking here and I can say promote to variable. So I will say whole or yeah, whole X whole Y whole Z. Okay. And I can see the variables here. So if I want to modify them afterwards in here, I need to activate, as we've mentioned, I need to activate these eyes in order to make them instance editable. If I click this one here and I remove that, see that I don't have Y anymore, okay? So let's activate that one and I'll have it back. Great. So right now I have this hole. I will be able to modify its dimension, okay? But at the same time, as I was having before, I want to modify the rotation, the transform. I want to be able to move it. But just check that here we didn't move it. We just modified its dimension. But it's not moving. It's always stuck on the origin. So right now we'll need to modify the transform, but I don't want to modify everything at the same time. So we'll split it. And I want to modify their rotation. So I will promote the rotation to a variable, whole rotation. And I will want to modify their location with another gizmo. So I will promote this here and I'll put whole location. Again, I will make both instance editable, and here in the hide location, I will enable the show 3D widget as I did before. So right now I have another 3D widget that it's called whole location, and I can move it, although I see nothing. Okay, this is totally okay. No problem. We're just modifying this. Now, a little tip for organization. If we just like select these elements, we will be able to come here to category and we'll be able to put it here. And this will create this kind of hierarchy, okay? So I will be able to come here and say wall and this here, or to move this over there. So that no wall constructor is well here. So that when I move this, I will compile and I will see that everything is organized here. Okay. easy. So right now, I can control my box with I can control the dimension, I can control its location and its rotation. Okay. I won't be able to modify the scale, but as I'm modifying it through the dimension, that's totally fine for me. So right now, I wanted to just generate the cut. Okay. I want to generate the cut. Right now, it's not cutting. So for now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do, like maybe some of you know that uh, Boolean, it was like true, false. In geometry, Boolean operations basically is to cut, to intersect, or to merge. Okay, so we can have two geometries. If we merge them, basically it will be one, but combined by the two of them. If we intersect, we'll generate like the intersection, will generate like different meshes that are the intersection between them. And if we generate like a cut, like a hole here, basically we'll remove the internal part. Okay, so we'll come here and we will do Boolean, and we'll write Boolean here. Apply mesh Boolean. So this is something that it's not on the documentation. Of course, it will appear this, but it is that as I need to know that the geometry, this geometry operation, it's called Boolean. So one of the things that we can see is the target transform, that we're going to leave it like that. And another thing, it's like union, intersection, and subtract. So this is what I was saying. Union will be to unite, like to join. Intersection will be like the result of combining both of them. And then subtract will be generating the whole. So I'm going to set here subtract. So the target mesh will be the one that I want to subtract from. So it's this one here. So I'm just going to come here. Oops. And I'm going to put it here. If I do double click, I will be able to just like see it here. Okay. So I bring it from the first box. I just come here and I put it as target mesh. And the tool mesh, the one that is going to generate the subtraction, is the one that I just created. So tool mesh. So let's see. Whoa, we already have this. So now I can start moving this. And I already have this subtraction. And you can see that depending on how I'm moving it, I kind of generate like a partial subtraction or a total subtraction. Okay. So let's see. Any question till here?
No, I'm trying to answer some of them, but some people is not seeing the box. But
well, we can go through the questions and answers afterwards. Yeah. Let's finish this part, and we'll do the PCTs, and then we'll come back and with the whole answers. Okay, with all the answers. So another thing that we need to see right now is that actually this is already working. What I want to do is that I want to modify its, remember that we want to do like this triangle door. So something's going on with the Y. Okay, it's there. There and there. So let me just put it there. So I'll compile and I have it here. So I can make this bigger. I can make this bigger. So if I don't see anything, basically it is because it's moving that way, and I can make this bigger. Okay. So at the same time, I can rotate. So I would need a 45, not in that way, a 45, that, not neither in this way, like that. And right now, I would need to just like put it like this a little bit. And probably I'll just make it bigger. So how about 300? Something like this. Perfect. So this is what I was looking for. So I could just drive it all along, or I could just put it here and then make it bigger, however I want. But one of the things that we have here is that we don't have the material yet. So what we're going to do is that we're going to set the material. And this is a little bit what I was mentioning that sometimes, for example, on my example, if you go directly here, I'll put it here, the golden wall, the set material is directly like after this. We can put it there, like there is no problem, or we can put it after. The point is that sometimes it's relevant where you put it, but for for now we like let's put it here, okay? Although we could put it over there. It's just like depends on the result that you get because the order actually means something. But anyway, one of the things that we want to do is like put here material. So we will write material and we will see. And one of the things we want to do is to set the material. Okay. So let me find it. Sorry, and it's not from the target mesh. It's from the dynamic mesh component. It's from this is the dynamic mesh component. This one here. So we're getting the dynamic mesh component. We bring it from here to here. Okay. And now we bring it here and we set it like set material, and you have it there. Set material dynamic mesh component. Okay. I mean, just like created both of them. It's actually the same. So we're putting it on the execution flow. Okay, I can put it there. And this is starting to be a little bit of a mess. But let me just organize this a little bit. And I'll put it here. And as I was mentioning, I'm going to put gold because in a way, this is going to be like my golden door in a way. So I compile because I want to see what's happening, and then I see it here. But one of the things that could happen is that the normal, and just in order to explain a little bit what we have before, the normal could be a little bit not the best. Okay. Could be a little bit not the best. So as we can see here in this blueprint, one of the things when we generate dynamic measures is that we would like to recompute the normals. Okay, so this is one of the things that we can do, and we can do that coming here and saying normals, normals, and we can say recompute normals. So it's totally fine. We can leave it like that, as you see, and that's it. Okay. So just in case, in this situation, for example, it's pretty much more or less the same, like it's similar thing because it's more or less solid. But if you have a texture or something like that, and then you move it, you will desire, like you will want to recompute the normals. Okay. And finally, in order just like for performance things, we will put here, and this is something that is on the documentation also, all compute, not remove. It's release compute mesh. Okay, so we'll have it here, and that's it. So it's just like we will just release it. Okay, and that's it. So this is something that we can actually start modifying it. This is, you can see that it's a little bit, and this is not big enough. So we can start like modifying this length. And this is how we can start doing like custom geometry directly in Unreal Engine. Okay. And it's like 100% procedural. So this is a little example that I wanted to do with you to see the full potential that we can do. So for example, If we go back to this level, we have here blueprints, maps. If we come here, we can see that we've generated, remember that this was a geometry that I baked. But if we can come here, we can see that this wall actually matched this perfectly because I generated it with the wall constructor that I built. And actually, I could modify this and I could modify the dimension or whatever I wanted. Okay. So actually, this golden wall already has this option that says bake somewhere. I already set it up in order to be able to bake it. So if you come here, you will be able to see it. It's like you can already bake it. It will just leave the geometry in a designated place. It will enable collisions. It will work with nanite. So there are many things that you can do here. I just wanted you to have this in case you want to explore a little bit more. Some of you will fancy a little bit more blueprints. Some of you won't. So this is a little bit something that I wanted you to have. And this is basically how I created the golden wall. So right now, if we remove this, that is the blueprint, we will only have the geometry and that's it. Okay. Well,
We have some questions here.
let's see.
So how do the collisions work with these booleans?
They are generated in runtime.
So if you do a hole, you can pass through.
Yeah. So let's see. Where do I have my viewport? So let's see 1 second. Okay. I'll just remove this. Oops. Okay. All settings. I'll put it here. I actually did it the other way around. My levels are here. Just went all the way. The wall settings here and outliner and viewport. Okay. Perfect. So if I come here and I go on to see player collision, so I see that this is already generated. Okay. So actually they will work with those. Textures, if you recompute the normals, you can that would work sometimes, and this is relevant for reflections too. So, oops, this is relevant for reflections. You can see that actually reflections work smoothly. Okay, but sometimes if you don't do the recompute normals, that's not going to happen. So yeah.
And can we do more than one
hole? Yeah. You would need to isolate. So this would be release all. Release all compute meshes. So we would need to set this. So this is for the end. This is for the end. Apply best boolean. So this is set material. This is the target base. This is how I create the geometry. This is how I translate it. And this is the creation. So I would need to isolate this. And actually here, I will need to create an array. So basically, this would be a new element. I'm not going to do it here because it could take a while. But basically, I will generate an array of these. Okay. So this is target dynamic mesh. I will promote it as variable. And these are holes. Here, I will make an array. Not like this. sorry, I would compile here. I would make an array. That's not a problem. Change variable type. Don't worry about this. Is this? I just created it from there. If I would have created it directly, it wouldn't be doing this. Get holes. That's totally fine. So yeah. So this is the getter that is modifying it. So right now, what I have here is that if I instance editable, and I come here and I say for each. This is more like for people that know how to program. Okay, so if I do this and then I loop the body, and then this when I complete it, I'll just remove this part. This was not on the class, so please don't worry about that. Something like this, and then the target mesh is the recompute normals of the target mesh. That will be the last one. So I will need to put a handle here. But anyway, I will be able to just click. I will come to my other level. Okay, just to make it like that. And now it's broken. But basically, I will be able to start generating holes dynamically. Okay. I will generate as many holes as I want. Okay. So, I mean, I can, you saw how it worked on the very beginning. So per one of this now, because it's broken, but per one of this, you will be able to just generate like a new vector and all of that. Although in this case, as the vector, it's here and it's not generated by procedurally. I only have one, but yeah, basically you can start like coming from one element into arrays of things, okay, and start modifying that part. Or basically what it would be even better is that I would create one hole as a dynamic mesh, like a whole new blueprint, and then I will be able to import it inside. So I have everything encapsulated here, and then I can call it, and then I can create different type of holes and all these kind of things. So in blueprints, you can actually do whatever you want. So it's just something like that. Okay. So if I did several, I would be able to just like start adding this right now. But if I wanted to generate procedurally the whole location, probably I'll need to just separate in another blueprint and bring it back. Okay.
And can you see the geometry for the second, I mean, the geometry that is doing the whole?
Yeah, you could draw like a debug, or you could bring a debug asset, or basically you could union. I'm not sure if now I have it. So here, if I do union, basically I will be seeing how this works. Okay, I'm just going to delete the other one. Just because I'm not sure if it's going to break somehow. So I'll just delete this part so that I know that it actually works. And yeah, so as I was mentioning, you can see it like that. I mean, you can just double check it, and once if you want that, you can just come here and subtract. So one of the things that you could do, imagine is like, oh, I don't want to come here all the time. And this is why it's really great about variables. It's just that come here, promote it to a variable, make it instance editable, and then you will be able to modify that from here. Oops. Just I'm going to delete this so that I remove that part, and I have the operation that I can put it in the world category. So right now I can come here and I can just modify this and subtract. Okay, so the intersection is the part in between, and then the union and subtract.
Do they have this blueprint there in their project?
Yeah, it's called golden wood. Golden wall.
And you have
I mean, not all the modifications that I'm doing now, of course, because but the original one it's here, and even you have this bake to new static. That is quite cool. And you would have this bake to new static mesh. Although bake to new static mesh is not connected. So in order to call it, just 1 second, what I would do is that I would come here, I would create a custom event and bake to static mesh. So you can see here that I just did bake to static mesh. I will call this one here. So we can call it. And then here I would say call in editor. Although I think that, let's see if I bring this one there. Oops. Here. Okay, let's see. Oh, I think the function I made it already callable. Just let me check 1 second. Here it is. Oh yeah, I have both. So if you, one of the things that I just saw when I clicked it here, if you make a function and you put it, you put it, call it in editor, just like delete this, that like bake to new static mesh, you will see that you have actions. So this is a function that you can call. And then if you create a custom event and you call it in editor, bake to static mesh, it will start on default. That actually the category, I could call it like the event, where is it? I could put it on some other different place. Okay. But yeah, basically I can just remove this. And as I did the function here, call in editor, I can basically call it here. So whenever I modify something here, for example, I just, let me just check this and you'll see it. So I have the golden wall, this one here. I can click this static mesh. I can make it, oops. No, it's not working. I would need to debug what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it should be, maybe I modified something in the process, but it should be working good. I mean, it's basically the same thing that I did before. Maybe I'm not getting the, yeah, I'm modifying the wall location, not the wall construction. Yeah, exactly. Here it is. So this is the one that you already have, the box location. So it's here, and then I can modify this one. I come up, I scroll up. So we can modify the dimensions. We can modify the rotation. So I can put 45, and then I can just like place it wherever I want. And as I was mentioning before, you would be able to come to actions and then bake to new static mesh. And right now, when you bake it, you should see that it's already here. So this is something that it has already been done. You see, this is a static mesh actor that I can move it wherever I want. And this will be here. Golden wall static mesh, generated meshes, because I actually mentioned it to go there inside the bake to new static mesh, make geometry script and asset options. And then it's like create new static mesh asset from mesh. And here is where I say the path that I wanted and all of that. So, but you have that there if you want to dig a little bit more. Yep.
Yes.
Good. So should we jump into the PCGs, or you have, I mean, that's totally like optional. This is new from 5.2. So it's a little bit what we have here. We did this, and this is the PCGs that it's a little bit in order to do the same, but with the new versions. So what do you prefer? More questions about the original class, or should we jump to PCGs and do these new things?
This is this. This is this. This is this.
Okay, I think it's unanimous. Great. So, let's see. I'm going to just put myself and put this there. Oops. Sorry. I'll put it here. Light show. So fasten your seatbelts and
So-
we will start now in
One of the questions about
Yeah.
this is why should we use this and not the traditional geometry? Like, why should we use the scripting?
Not the traditional geometry one.
Like building with traditional shapes with or the modeling tool. It's
This
completely
is
different.
this is a different thing. So modeling tools is just that. Okay, we have this. So we can build a box and we can give the dimensions here or whatever you see. It's like, I don't know, 2 meters or 7 meters, 2 meters, the other way around, 1 meter and 2 meters or 3 meters. So it's totally fine to set this like that. But it's once you accepted it, actually, if I cancel it, I'm going to put it like that. I'm going to put it to 50, and then I'm going to put here gold. So I'm going to do it like this, and then I will come here. I'll generate another box that I don't mind that it's like that. I'll just make it 250, 257. Okay, so I can do it like this. I can rotate it 45 degrees or just like, and then I'll put it like that. I'll put it like this. And I'll just come here. I'll do the Boolean operation if I find it. Polymodel, just I always polycut, not trim, just I need to click both, sorry. Mesh cut or the where do you yeah, mesh bool. So I'll select difference A. A is the first click, B is the second click. So it's totally fine. Then you see this kind of thing. So I actually want to use mesh here. So I can do this. You can see a little like shadowed a ghost mesh for the operation. And yeah, I can do it like that. So I can even modify this a little bit. I can click it. So I've done it. Okay. So I've done it, but I cannot move, I cannot modify it. And these ones here, I will always be able to modify those. In this case, that it's a Boolean, I can even recalculate normals and all these kind of things. So just let me UVs, not UVs. I would need like a search bar actually here. I've always mentioned them. Normals, recalculate them, accept, and then I can even go to the UV editor and modify the UVs and all this kind of stuff. So this is one way, but this is not procedural. I cannot modify this, you know? I cannot actually, I mean, this is the blueprint. Oh, if you click and you don't see the gizmos, it's because you might be on the modeling tool. So, but I can always modify this one. And when I'm going to finish, if I want, I can bake it. If not, I don't need to bake it. So, yeah. Okay,
And
so this is why.
That's one about this that I think it's interesting. Can you do the booleans with another static meshes that you import to Unreal?
So the booleans, like with the geometry script, instead of with another procedural, with another one, yeah. I mean, why not? Probably you should get like a static mesh. So this is the, actually, it would be, here I have the mesh boolean, and this is the tool mesh. So I would need to generate from the static mesh a dynamic mesh. So I would need to convert it. I will bring it here, but actually I would just like come here. I would get a static mesh component, a static mesh actor, actor reference, not an array. I would put a single, and then I would convert it. So I'll get it on dynamic. Copy properties, create dynamic now here. This is material, copy properties from static mesh. So, oops. Properties, and this is the target. So I would need to allocate it. Yeah. So I would need to bring like allocate, compute mesh.
That is one of the questions. What allocated compute?
Basically, we need the hardware to memory to just say save that space for. I mean, this is a little bit more the coding stuff. So we need to, so not always say like, okay, I want a geometry. So as we're coming here to scripting, it's not like, usually when we do things, it's because someone already prepared like a nice thing for us. And this is just like coming one level down, you know, it's like we are the ones that we are preparing that for us or for some other one. So we need to say, okay, I want to allocate memory, allocate a space for this new mesh. So this would be like that. And then I will just like allocate to this new target. So generate a dynamic mesh object. Well, I need to work a little bit on this, but basically you can. So basically what you need is to convert, because these are different types. Although this is a static mesh actor, I would need to just generate like a new allocate compute mesh so that I can just use it as a Boolean target. But yeah, cool. It's something that you can. So this is in a way, 3ds Max or some other software, like basically you can do like procedural or just like layered modifications, operations. So this is not like, this is a little bit it. It's just like, it's not that you can add like an operation itself, like it's in 3ds Max, for example, it's just that you code everything that you want. And then you decide you build this kind of tools. Okay. So this is it. So for example, the Lyra project, if you come here, this Lyra starter game, all these blocks are geometry scripting tools. All of this is done with geometry scripting tools. Okay. So it's really, really powerful. Should we jump to PCGs? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go. I was looking for a map, but actually I don't have it because it's brand new. It's right from the oven. So let's not levels. So I will generate a PCG sandbox. Okay, I will just save selected. Oh, just if you can just create new level, I'll just like I've already done it. So this is exactly the same thing that you get from new level. Okay, the basic one. So we will see these tomorrow. So don't worry if you missed it. I'll be working with this, like with this creation tool for lighting afterwards. So the very first thing that we're going to double check is that we have the procedural content generation framework activated, and we have it. That's one good thing. So I remove plugins, and let's say like that. I will close this just because I don't need it anymore. So what I'm going to do is that if I come here to in class, I'm going to generate another folder, and I'm going to call it PCG from Procedural Content Generation. So if I enable my plugin and if I am in 5.2, I come here and I see PCG graph. I click it and I'm going to call it PCG forest generation or forest gen. Okay. So I will click it, and this is slightly different. Actually, at the very beginning, it took me, I mean, a little bit just to understand how actually it worked. Okay, so we have all of our commands, all of our nodes here, and we have the details tab, as we know in this part. This is like force generation, like this. We want to pause the generation, and this like to force to regenerate it again. Okay. So if we come here to the input, we'll see that, for example, we have the in that is like everything that comes on the input from the generation. Like this is kind of the same way, but we can decide the type. This is like actually this like different options. Okay, so and the ones that we're going to be using at the very beginning, like today, is like actually you could use both landscape and landscape height, although we will be using only height, and this is not that it's an issue. It's just like there is more information in this one. Here it's only the height. It's all what we need for today. And then we'll be generating also a spline, and we'll be working with the in. Okay, but that's totally fine. So one of the cool things that we have here is that we have a debug section. So this debug section, actually, you can see here, if we go to the input, we can actually filter and we can decide to just use the landscape or maybe a surface, point, a spline or whatever. Okay, but and this is just, I mean, for you to know, I will be using by default. I won't be filtering anything. So what I was mentioning about debug is that what we're going to do here is that we're going to be working not only with the static meshes and whatever we create, we're going to be working with spawn points, like points that are going to be creation points for our generations. So this is a little bit like Niagara. So Niagara, you have emitters, and then you have a system. So the emitter is actually like the spark that you're using, like the element that are going to be there. But at the same time, you need systems that are going to be the spawners of the emitters. Okay. So this is kind of like that. So we're going to generate like a logic that will generate this kind of spawners. And then we're going to say, for example, spawn the mesh. But at the same time, we will be able to intersect and to operate with those spawners that will be points, and we will be able to work not only with the points that are like a point in the geom in the world, but also with the boundaries of the points. Okay, this is like theory. I'll just come and jump into it. So we've generated this procedural content generation graph. And one of the things I'm going to do is that here I'm going to generate a landscape because I want a landscape, just like a basic one. We don't need a fancy one. I need no material. I just want to create it. I'll sculpt a little bit because why not? I mean, if I need height, let's not use one only option. I want to be a little bit faster. And I want to brush size. Okay, so just like the strength is really high. So I'm going to put it like this. Maybe I just like put it down now. I do like that, and I do a little mountain. And why not another mountain over here? And okay, well, it's not my best, but then I'll just smooth it, everything, in order to lose these height parts and in order to seem a little bit more natural. Okay, I mean, you can always, I mean, you can create a little bit of erosion and all these kind of things. But again, this is not a landscape class. Okay, so we have our landscape, and this is the height. So I'm going to save it because I don't want to lose my work. Not here. I want to get rid of the grid. I don't like it. So right now we have this landscape. And what we are going to do is that we're going to come here and I'll be looking for a PCG volume. So if you don't find it, just like put it like that, PCG, just write it down and you'll be able to get it, or from volumes or from all classes, or just like directly from there. So you can put it there, and I'm going to be modifying this one and making it a little bit bigger, and then we'll be talking about this, okay? So hopefully, can you see that I'm making this a little bit bigger?
Yes, we can see the yellow
Perfect.
box.
Nice. So when you click this PCG volume, one of the first things that we'll see if it's static, movable, and I mean, doesn't matter. And then you have a PCG component here. Although, I mean, it's not that you need to click it because we will be able to access it from here. So what we need to do is that we need to access this forest generation. So I will click this one here, you know, I will bring it here, and that's it. Okay. So right now, what we have is this input, and we have the landscape, and we have the graph. So basically, we're like saying, oh, PCG volume, just like get this and analyze this space here, okay? So I'm analyzing with this volume, with this graph inside, and it's here. So I should be getting already like points, but if I come here, I don't see anything because although I click the debug, because basically what I need is a sampler, okay? So what I need to do, and we'll see it here, we can get it from landscape height. I need a surface sampler, okay? So this is like, I want to create samples for this geometry. And now, yes, I should be clicking this. And just let me check and generate. Okay. And right now I have this generation of samples. Okay. So I clicked it, I generated it, and I have these generations of samples. And we can see how this is working. Yeah. This is better than the blueprint for radius scattering.
Yeah.
Because this really like works with this, with the height, okay? So right now, one of the things that we could be working with is like, for example, if I put 0.2 and I generate here, I can always clean and this. So for example, in this iteration, the point extends is the distance. This lossiness is like, this is a grid, okay? So if I just save here, you will see that they will be like really like located in the grid, okay? So I can just like point extends, I can modify this. If I put 0.1, there will be like less here. If I put 4.01, even less. And if I put here like 1, there will be quite a lot, okay? Yes. So basically, these are the points that we're working with. So if I put 1.1, that is the default, and then it's like 200, 200, 200. We will be able to see that this has gone, this has the boundary, the volume have grown, okay? So we are overlapping it. So this is what we get with the sampler. So one of the things that I'm going to do is that, and this is not the final option, the final goal, but I want you to understand it, is that we will get static mesh spawner. Okay, click it here. And we will create, just let me check it, static mesh spawner. Where is it? Mesh selecting type. Da, 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 da. Filter and tags. Oh, mesh entries here. I wasn't seeing it. So I have this, and I have mesh entries, and I have to click it here because I can not only add one, but I can add many. So right now I will be looking for, remember that we had some rocks. So let's see the ones that we were using before. We had them from Megascans, not plants, assets, static mesh. This one's here, for example, from the Japanese garden. So we have them here. And we should be seeing, so I have the debug, so I cannot see it. So one cool thing. So enable is E, debug is D. So if I click this and I click D, I won't be able to see the debug. So I click D, I see it, and I see that. I click here and I don't see it again. If I click E, I disable it, so I won't see anything. But at the same time, as debugging won't be useful, so I can activate it. Sorry, I can activate it and deactivate the debug. Okay. So I see this and it's like, what a mess. This is not useful at all because all of them are facing the same way and they are all in the same direction. And this is not what I want to do, not what I want. And this is because we need to transform. So we will put here transform. So I need to transform the points. Okay. So I'll break this here. I'll break this here and I will just get rid of this. So if I transform my points, at the same time, I will rotate my element. So I'll put from 0 to 360. And I will disable this so I can see the debug. So I can always debug here. Now I see the randomness. So what will happen if I just click here and I click here and I enable this? I'll be getting this. Okay. But at the same time, I can come to transform and I can modify slightly, or I could put like an absolute rotation. This is just like in order not to use relatives, not a problem. I will come here and I will modify the scale. Like I can put like 0.5 and then here 1.5. So I will be able to see it here. So I can see the randomness here also from every single point. Okay. And for example, something that I can do is instead of using this kind of spawner of rocks, I can bring a horn. So I can bring any of these trees and voila, I have a huge forest. So in my situation, I wouldn't need so many. So I could just bring like a few less, maybe a few less, and I will get less trees. So what I did, I went back to the surface sampler and I minimized the points per square meter. Okay. So yeah. Well, this is looking pretty cool. And if I move this, it will be generating different options. Okay. But what if I want to generate everything? Like, have you seen the post-process volume yet?
No. No.
We'll see it tomorrow. No worries. But the post-process volume has one thing, and most volumes have, that it's like boundaries. Okay, so right now we can see that this is like only for this volume. I can make it bigger, of course. That's one option. Okay. Yeah. I can also come here and say unbounded. And this is cool. I'm just going to put it here. Boom. And there we have. We have our full forest. It's quite cool, isn't it?
Yes. Be careful with this.
Yeah, I mean, it can be the fans from my computer just started working, so I can tell you that. But at the same time, I mean, it's really amazing. Just like I'm running 80 something FPS, so it's just like about 80 FPS, 90 FPS. It's crazy, and probably it's because I have a limit of 90 in this project. So yeah, so this is one of the things. This is how I create the trees, and I'm going to do like a small, some small thing. I won't be able to do the wall align. I think it's still like working. I will ask devs, uh, but we can do the. So this is a little bit like the scatter. This is replacing the scatter, and it's replacing it way better because it actually gets the height from the landscape. But at the same time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to disable this. And I'm going to, so we can say, oh, and how can I draw a spline? So here, and this is the difference, what I want to do is to come here. And this is a little bit different. I will actually create a new actor, okay? I'll create a new actor and I'll say blueprint, PCG, and forest gen spline, okay? So I cannot bring a spline here. Maybe I could create it, but it would be more like a procedural creation. So not like I would be able to draw it. So I'm going to open this and then I have like a standard blueprint, but I can bring here a new spline. And I'm going to actually click a spline. So here, as you can see, I can bring an actor with a spline and with my PCG graph. So I can bring a component here and it can be my PCG graph. And as well as I did before, I can bring here, I can come here and get my previous PCG graph here, this one here, and apply it into my component. Okay. So I'm going to remove this one. Okay. I'm going to remove the one that I had, and I'm going to place this one there. So I will be able to get the component from here, but let's see, for example, in this situation, what I don't have is like the spawner, sorry, the transform to scale. But what I will be able is if I come back to in here, I will be able to generate it. Okay, so just you see, it will be unbound. Okay, so I can actually put it here. So this will be working. So it's like two kind of different approaches. So it's just like you can put it here. And this is, I remove the PCG volume and I just apply the blueprint. But this blueprint is kind of just applying the PCG volume all of its own, okay? And you can see here that I have the blueprint. I've added the PCG volume as a component, and then not the volume, the graph actually, and then I added the spline. So if I want to come here, I'm going to disable the forest again, because if not, I won't see anything at all. I'm coming here, let me go there, and I have my spline. So I can start modifying this spline, and I can start playing with it, and I can work with it. Yep. Okay. So I have this. So right now, what I want to do is I want to scatter things from here. So I'm going to come back here, and what to the graph, And what I'm going to say is that I'll get spline sampler. Do you remember that we got surface sampler? So right now it's the spline sampler, and I'm going to get the in, because this is what we were mentioning before, that I could get the input and filter through the splines. But I mean, just like I'll get all of them. I don't have an issue with performance right now. So this will be our bounding shape by default. At the same time, I want to transform my points kind of the same way. 360, absolute rotation, and scale for now. It's just like, I will just leave it like that. Although I could put like 09, 09, 09, and 1.1, 1.1, 1.1, like slight modification. And I want to drive another static mesh sampler, static mesh spawner, sorry. And now we'll get the mesh entry, and you know what? I'll be using the same query that I was using before. I think it was 11. And there you have. So, I missed it. I really didn't want to just like add I did it wrong here. I didn't want to add the rotation. So I'm just going to put it like that. So they are like this. And what I would probably want is to modify this rotation, min, max. Let's see, probably I need to just like put it here. It would be like more or less for all of them. And I will be able to spawn a little bit like that. Actually, I'm having an issue here. I don't want it like through the distance. I want it to like, I will be able to modify this from the spline instead of subdivision from distance. So I will be able to control this part, okay? So I will be able to modify this, and I will be able to increment this part, okay? So I will be able to do like this. Maybe that's too much. And a little bit like this. So what I know is that I would need to just not get the absolute. I will need to get the relative through this, because this is not working like that. So just give me a second. So this is subdivision on spline, on volume, and extents. So usually when you're working with this, sometimes it's just better to work with the debug. Okay, so just let me check here. The transform, it's very small. So we're getting this. And one of the things that I see that is happening is that my debug is not working correctly. So then I'll need to come here to the forest, and probably I'll need to put it like an absolute. Just let me check exactly. So I need to see a little bit how this is working. Okay, so this would be the absolute that I want. So where's this? I'm just like getting confused all the time with this part. So this is a little bit, I want to be working with it. And then let me rotate this and enable this. Sorry. There you go. So I clicked before, I did it as before in the transform points. I had the absolute rotation, and this is what I was doing wrong. So if I click this, you get the absolute rotation, so it doesn't follow the curvature of the spline. But if you take this away, you're just like modifying this, okay? So I did it as before, and that was my mistake. So now what I need to do, if you're working with two monitors, it's easier. I'll need to modify the distance because I'm working with a static mesh. So I'll be making this bigger. Yeah, and more or less it works. Okay, so I'm making this bigger, the distance. Yeah, that's too much. Something like that. Well, it works pretty well. Anyway, it's not going to be perfect, but yeah. The problem of the spine is of the spline is not getting the height, and sometimes this kind of thing happens when when there is like a huge curvature. Okay, so try to make like smooth elements. So what I was mentioning before is that the good thing about the whirl align is that it actually modifies the geometry. So when you modify, oops, I just did it like this. This is, sorry. I just did a control set. I'm going to save. When this kind of thing happens, I think I just modified this. What you can do is to come here and clear all of this. Probably I have a stump. Yeah, this is something that I have there. Just, sorry. I'm getting this spline twice. I don't know why. Just, sorry. This is weird. Just 1 second. I'm getting all these elements here that are like elements in between. And basically it just generates procedurally like a stump part, like, okay, it's already done. So it just like makes it like that. But this is like, you need to clear the links and then you clean up and then you can generate again. Okay. So basically this creates this kind of assets here that we have them. And basically they are like cached geometries. Okay. So this is like, you need to delete them and then you can start working again. So this is a little bit what we were saying. Let me get this. Okay. So I don't see, this is a stump. Sorry, it's just like I'm touching a lot of things here. And there we go. Now it's working. So what we can do is like, we can start working with all of this. And we can prepare, like, this is like a scatter. The only thing, as I say, this is not the best as a wall align. As a wall align is way better at the other one. Okay. This would be for scattering and all of that, but this works. What I had ready is that what happens if now I enable this, okay? And then everything is there, like I'm not getting any kind of difference. Actually, what I'm going to do, these trees are really big. So I'm going to modify the scale here. So I'm going to put like 333, 333. I'm going to save everything so I can see it. Of course, I will need to triple the distance from the spline. Okay. I just multiply it there. Well, more or less. I would definitely be working a little bit more. But what I want to say is that we can avoid these kind of things if let's debug everything. Okay. So we can see that we have the spline and we have all of this, but we can work with something that it's called difference. Okay. So if we come here and we look for difference, we have the source, but actually the source will be the surface sampler. And we have the difference that will be here. The minus, in a way, will be the spline. Okay. So we want to create the trees from the difference, and we will need the cliffs directly from the sampler from this one. So this is a little bit it. So in this situation, let's work with the debug, not from these ones. We need the debug from here. And we'll see that it's not making a huge difference. And why is that? Because if we see this, the samplers the points are so small that they won't be cutting anything at all. So what we will need to do is to do something that it's called the bounds modifier. So we will be modifying these bounds, okay? So we will be bringing it from here and from here. So we will modify this part and then this part there. So the bounds modifiers basically will be scaling these ones there, okay? So we have these ones here, and as well as I'll talk about this a little bit afterwards. So we'll be able to work to increase these ones there, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So what we want is to make these ones bigger. Maybe like, I don't know, like 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. So they get bigger. And then what we would like to do here is the difference. Instead of extend, we will probably want, no, sorry, instead of, here it was, instead of minimum, it will be binary, okay? So in this difference, it will be the density function, it will be binary. So we're starting to see how we can modify a little bit this part, okay? So it's just a matter of being, for being able to modify these boundaries. So I'm working here. Let me modify this part a little bit, and I'll tell you because there are a few things. And just let me 1 second. I need to work on this. So this bounds modifier is translate, and here extends. Just like I need to check 1 second. And 1 second. This will be the debug here. I'm missing something, and it's just that I need to see it. 1 second. So I have here the difference, interfered, extends, all of this should be working. And then the bounds should be like this. Translate, maybe even bigger. For example, here I have this like that. Okay, let's see. Maybe that's too much. And let me check 1 second. Yeah. So it just needs to be a little bit bigger, okay? Or just let me check this part, set, and this is it. So here you can see it. So for example, in this situation, I will just remove these ones there. So you could see how making this, for example, 700, 700, 700, the bounds minimum, just 1 second. Oops. Well, the point here, and I'll just double check. I'll send you because I didn't have time to just put it on the project. We can send you the files. So basically, the point here is that what I would need is to generate this kind of bounds here. The point is that I need to control a little bit more what I'm getting here. Okay, but it just like works with these kind of elements. And I need to generate these kind of boundaries. So the point of this basically is that if you get the boundary and you put it as a difference, and then you just mix this, okay, you will get the difference part, and then you will be able to spawn only the trees from this part. So let me remove this thing here. You can see that all of this has been modified, and then I can enable this, and then this, and then I can enable this part too. So definitely I need to be working on my boundaries that right now I'm not finding the proper value. But what I wanted to show you is that definitely you can be working with these boundaries and setting all of this in order just to modify and remove these trees directly from the cliffs. So this is a little bit it, and I'll be researching a little bit on what parameter I'm not finding here that I can actually modify. But you see here that, well, I mean, it's a matter of finding a little bit what value I need to put there in the boundaries in order to make it work. Okay. Sorry for the confusion, but in like a major overview, there is a little bit what we have there. But definitely I have it here and I would need to test a little bit more. Okay. I have in the PDF, there should be, I mean, there are like some slides and this exercise, I did it, I was preparing it. And this, I took the pictures directly from the exercise. So the values that you have on the PDF should be working, okay? So it's just that I don't know what exactly I'm not seeing, but this is a little bit the modification. This is a debug, so it shouldn't affect too much. And yeah, I mean, something I'm missing some part, but anyway, you should have that ready there. Okay. Anyway, except for that boundary thing, the rest is all, everything is working. And the point of this is that you could see that, for example, you get from this input, if you that you can use the graph, you can use the blueprint, you can add a spline, and you can be using the landscape height in order to just add all these samplers to transform them, to make differences, to spawn these trees. Of course, if I just like modified here and I added a new one.
Once you're there, David,
yeah,
for the trees, is there any way to adjust the normal, like for them to not follow the inclination of the landscape, like we have in foliage?
Yeah. So the point here, let me just, the trees are these ones. So so these are, I will just work always with this. Okay. So you have the transform points. So for now, actually, the normals are,
They are looking up.
they're looking up, all of them.
Okay.
So they should be working.
Can you change that? If you want to put some grass or something that it's more.
Yeah. So you have the you can work with the surface sampler, and you can modify here. I have only the height.
Okay.
So probably you should get the landscape and then to modify and get from the stiffness. There was somewhere where I could modify this. I will be able to, I think it was this one here, but I will check it, but I definitely know you can work on that. Although I need to see if this is the one. Just let me check. This is no, I'm not getting it, but maybe because I'm getting it from the height. So I'll check on that. But definitely you can do that, and it's like a standard one.
And they were asking also if you can select the trees one by one once you have the PCG created, but I don't think so.
So this is a little bit as we had. So this is, for example, one of the things that I was mentioning before. You can kind of bake it in a hierarchical instance static mesh as we had before. So the point this is that whenever you generate this, okay, so just come here, you generate or clean up, generate it. So you have this part. So This is a hierarchical instance mesh. So we should generate like a stamp of it. Okay. So once you generate a stamp, you will be able to just come there and use it. But basically, a hierarchical instance static mesh is based in order not to be modified at the same time. Okay. Like in runtime or anything like that. Because basically, what it does is that it gets one asset and then it only modifies the transform so that it's not generating draw calls all the time. So we have the wireframe uh, part of the performance. Like we're drawing this on the GPU, but the point is that it's not a draw call. So this is why this is like so good for performance.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the point. So yeah.
And can you animate PCTs from the sequencer?
I have no clue about that.
No.
Actually, I would say no, but I don't think so. But don't take this as a definite no. I mean, this is really, really new. So in a way, it's like if you see the PDF, it was not even there. And I just wanted to bring something so that you could get like a sense of it. Okay. So this was a little bit my goal. Actually, you could see that I put myself like in some kind of complications. Yeah. So but yeah, I mean, basically what I just wanted to show you is that with basic things, so my I mean, if you're going to be working with splines and stuff like that, it can be a little bit more tricky because of these kind of things. And I'm always because sometimes I need to just like double check a couple of things. Usually it doesn't take me a lot of time, but this here, it wouldn't be live if you don't put yourself in trouble, as you were saying. But yeah, so the point is that if you remove this kind of spline and then you're working with all these things, if you, for example, put some, for example, if you put some rocks or these kind of things, you can definitely make it a way easier. You can actually get another surface sampler, do exactly the same. Although, for example, for rocks, it would be less points per square meter, and we would modify the bounds in order to make them bigger. And then we can do the difference so that we will avoid if we have big I'll say it. If I have big rocks to avoid, for example, trees or grass where the big rocks are placed, and it is just like only like getting a new sample here, and it would be something like that. The transform, we can get something like this, and then basically we can get the bounce, so we can make it easier, and then the difference. So I mean, we can just like point extends. We can make the point extends bigger, like 200. So this would be the operation that we're working with. And then we can get this even. Oh, this is something nice. This is actually like a calculator. If you can use it like that. So if you put this value per 10, you can see that, or divided by 10. Sorry. If you can get it. So yeah, you can actually come here and use it like that. And then you can get the difference. And yeah, so we can make it easier, and then the difference. So I mean, we can just like point extends. We can make the point extends bigger, like 200. So this would be the operation that we're working with. And then we can get this even. Oh, this is something nice. This is actually like a calculator. If you can use it like that. So if you put this value per 10, you can see that, or divided by 10. Sorry. If you can get it. So yeah, you can actually come here and use it like that. And then you can get the difference. And yeah, so basically you see how this is being modified. right now. So this is way easier. And this is because I just made something huge. Okay. Yeah. So yes, probably it needs to be, it needs to have way less and all of that. But yeah, I'm just like making a little bit of a mess in here. Well, so more questions that should be about the first part of the
Not the
class.
first one.
No?
There are a lot about PCGs, but as we said, this is an extra. Most of them they are gonna be solved if they rewatch the class. So
Yeah, what we can do, although I don't think we will have time for this for the boot camp, but hopefully we can generate like one class, you know, about PCGs, and we can call you maybe in a few weeks and just do a little talk about PCGs if you would like to. And like that, you know, like they've been there for a couple of months, and it's not that we've been relaxed in a way. So like yeah, but we can work a little bit more on this, and we can make like a little talk about PCGs and all this kind of thing. So and do a little bit more of an explanation on working with the splines, and maybe just like doing some kind of rivers and things that go around and all of that. If you go to the environment, like the electric dream environment, those are pretty complicated. So I mean, you can definitely go there and browse a little bit, but if you go there, unless you know quite a lot of coding, basically, you know, this is like quite easy in a way, but those others are like this, but you know, like huge. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's a great tech demo, although it's not like one prepared for like a class, you know,
yeah.
like a 2 hours class or 4 hours class. So yeah, I mean, just like one last thing, if you just come here, there were like a few other things like custom editor tools. You can actually work with the begin play and add like exit console command, or basically you can come here and create an editor utility widget that you can put like a few buttons, and then from the graph you can trigger them and like set up like a few added commands. That was really useful for ray tracing. Now we use more Lumen and this kind of things, but definitely you want to modify from one kind of setup to the other one. This is a great way to go, but you need to know a little bit more of UMGs. It's Unreal Motion Graphics that is for the user interfaces and so on. So oh, remember the MetaHuman widget that we had? Basically, that was UMG, and that was connected a little bit like that in order to get the control rig and modify those assets. That was that was done with the editor utility widget. So yeah, I think I used to go ways a little bit more, but you know, we had 15 minutes for the break, so I take those. They created the Matrix City for the word partition demo with an external pro, but now you can also do it with PCG. I mean, though that was generated with Houdini. That was huge. I mean, PCG is starting, they're starting, so definitely not a replacement for Houdini. But yeah, I mean, this will be, I mean, in between geometry scripting and PCGs, the future is limited. So I mean, you will be able to do so many things. So I mean, that's totally true. Well, yeah, so mine too. Mine too. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I know that was like a bunch of information. Well, I kind of promised we won't enter or dig so much into Blueprint in the next classes, but I thought that as an overview of Unreal Engine, it was worth to see all of this. Okay. And yeah, well, at least you know how to do really fast and fun world building. Hope you. We saw really nice worlds there, nice fairies, and a nice environment. So
Yes.
bye, everybody. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, I know that many of you are looking for the lighting class.
Yeah, sure.
I definitely, I think it will be worth it.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.